autism claim the city is infringing upon the religious rights of the parents to not vaccinate their kids. Eben Brown, Fox News.
Anti-gun activists in Colorado are pushing for waiting periods for gun purchases after a Florida woman traveled to Colorado and made threats that shut down school districts in Denver. Ann McGeehan, the leader of the Colorado Coalition Against Gun Violence, says it's ridiculous how easy it was for the suspect to get a gun.
The fact that she had just bought a gun is the threat, and the fact that she didn't have to wait.
The director of the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners says waiting periods really haven't stopped suicides, and most are premeditated and occur with guns that are already owned. 18-year-old Sol Pais, who is obsessed with the Columbine High School shooting, made the trip to Colorado Monday night, purchased a pump-action shotgun, and made unspecified threats. She was found dead yesterday after apparently taking her own life. Artifacts recovered from an 1872 time capsule stashed in the cornerstone of a demolished Masonic lodge in Reno include silver dollars minted in Carson City, Nevada, and San Francisco, and a piece of wood from Sutter's Mill, where the California Gold Rush began 24 years earlier. Other items include a harmonica and an edition of the Virginia Enterprise in a nearby Virginia City, where Samuel Clemens began his newspaper career during the 1860s before adopting the pen name Mark Twain. I'm Rich Dennison, and this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. Central Iowa County continues to be among the fastest growing counties in the nation, while 66 of the 99 counties have lost population since 2010 in the state of Iowa. Dar Danielson has the details.
New 2018 information from the State Data Center shows Dallas County is the 8th fastest growing county in the nation. Dallas County grew by 36% since 2010, and its growth is part of an overall trend where the Des Moines metro area has grown by 15%. The fastest growing counties behind Dallas are Johnson at nearly 16% and Polk at 13%. More than half the state's population lives in one of 10 counties, all of which are in metro areas. The Iowa City Names metro areas are right behind the others of growth at 13.6% and 9.6%. Clinton County's lost the most residents since 2010 at 2,599 people. Emmett County declined at the fastest rate, losing 10.2% of its population, while Audubon County was right behind, losing 10%. Adams County has the smallest population in the state at 3,645. That compares to the state's largest county, Polk, which has a population of more than 487,000. 25 counties have populations below 10,000. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Now looking at Webster County's estimated population in July 2018, that was at 36,277. That's down 366 people when compared to July of last year. And it's down 1,736 when compared to the April 2010 census. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley applauds today's release of the still redacted version of the report investigating alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Grassley, a Republican, says tens of billions of taxpayer dollars were spent on the near 40-page report. He says it should be made public with the exception of a few key areas.
You get accountability with transparency. Obviously, that doesn't apply to grand jury and hurting people's privacy or hurting national security.
Grassley says he will not join with Democratic leaders who are calling for Special Counsel Robert Mueller to testify before Congress about the report he compiled over the last 22 months.
Well, that's up to Mueller. I've stayed out of what the special counsel's doing. I want him to finish job. His job's finished. And if he wants to testify, he's going to have to testify within the law.
Grassley says parts of the report do need to be kept secret, like sections involving people who are questioned but who are not indicted. Those people could have their reputations ruined. Grassley says if it came out that they were investigated by Mueller. In addition, Grassley says sections of the report that could jeopardize our nation's security should not be published or discussed by Mueller if he chooses to testify before Congress.
I would expect that he would respect that law. He's an honorable man. He's testified many times before me, both as chairman and member of the Judiciary Committee over several years that he was FBI director.
During a news conference in Washington, D.C. this morning, the U.S. Attorney General William Barr said the Mueller report found no collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign or any other Americans. With little fanfare, after more than a decade of missed attempts, the Iowa Senate has voted to legalize sports betting in Iowa. 19 Republicans and a dozen Democrats teamed up to vote yes on the bill, while 18 senators opposed it. Senator Robbie Smith of Bettendorf is the only senator to speak during Wednesday evening's debate. Under the plan, wagering on professional and college sports is to be managed by the 19 state licensed casinos in Iowa. Gamblers in Iowa will be able to use a smartphone app to place those bets.
I believe what we're doing in this bill is the right thing to do. Sports wagering is something I'm not fully eager to participate in myself, but that does not mean we cannot ensure that Iowans have the best experience for those that choose to participate.
The bill also legalizes fantasy sports prizes connected to the performance of professional athletes. It is currently illegal for an Iowan to claim winnings from sites like FanDuel, DraftKings, or other online fantasy sports games. The sports wagering issue now moves over to the House, where legislation similar to what passed the Senate is eligible for debate. And Iowa businesses and individuals soon will get some limited protection from lawsuits if they hire people with a nonviolent criminal record. Governor Reynolds approved that new law on Wednesday.
The bill reflects Iowans' belief in redemption and second chances. Most offenders will reenter society, and when they do, we want them to be successful. And too often, employers have overlooked skilled workers with past criminal offenses because of fear of lawsuits.
The shield from liability does not apply in cases where a past criminal conviction disqualifies someone from an occupation or certain jobs. That's a look at local news for the newsroom. I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies this afternoon, a high into the lower 50s. Breezy northwest winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. For tonight, decreasing clouds, a low near 36. By Friday, sunny skies, a high around 63 degrees. Saturday, mostly sunny, high of 74. Sunday, slight chance for showers and storms, late, a high of 66. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 49.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about, and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless, and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes, teachers, and students are calling Limitless a secret weapon for the brain. You have nothing to lose, so call now and find out how to get a free bottle today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-605-4757. That's 800-605-4757. Get your free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-605-4757, 800-605-4757.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
This is not vengeance. No, not vengeance. Punishment.
And now, Mayor Matt Bemrick, the Punisher.
Mayor Matt Bemrick is the Punisher, ladies and gentlemen. You saw him on the front page of the paper the other day. Don't mess with Matt. Out you'll go. AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. We welcome to the program. Once again, our Main Street director, Chris Patrick. How are you?
I am good.
Well, you look good. Are you feeling good?
I do. I feel great.
Outstanding. So we got a lot of stuff going on here in our town. The Main Street Ford Dodge live pitch, open for business contest. That's coming up April 29th. Should we start with that? I mean, you have so many things. I don't know if we can get it in today.
We'll try.
All right,
I'll talk really fast.
Let's go. Okay, so let's talk about the Open for Business. That's open, the number 4 for business contest, as in you're open for business. Monday the 29th at 6 p.m. at Iowa Central's Bioscience Auditorium. The public is welcome to attend as 2 downtown businesses showcase their efforts to expand in Fort Dodge. What 2 businesses are these?
This is Mary Kay's Gifts and Home Decor, and then also Angela Davis. She owns Angela's Hair Supply and Beauty. So she is just off 12th Street. So both of these ladies submitted an application online. It's like 7 pages long. So it's a big commitment to fill all that out. And then they created they each created a 5-minute video that they submitted along with that application. So then on the evening of the 29th, the judges, and then all the judges are from outside of Webster City or Webster County. And the judges and the public are going to watch the video for 5 minutes. And then the contestants have 10 minutes to do a live pitch. And
Okay.
at the end of the evening, then the 3 judges will decide which one is going to move on to the semifinals for the state.
Well, I certainly know Mary Kay. Daniel Pharmacy is my pharmacy, and I see her quite often. I've been a little concerned about my overall beauty, so maybe I should see Angela about some beauty products.
You should. You should. She's got really cool hair extensions.
Don't you have something for the extension? You need something for the extensions to latch onto in the first place, don't you?
No, I think we'll just glue them on.
We'll
We're
just
good.
we'll just
You've
go
got
there.
some hair.
Yeah, well, okay, a little bit. At my age, and of course, your husband's got to be close to my age, not necessarily my age, but as you know, men get thin on top and they get hair everywhere else on their back and shoulders and arms.
That's true. Yeah, he ended up shaving his head. It drove me crazy. So now I made
Oh,
him
is
go
that
back
right?
out. Yeah. So maybe he needs to go over to Angela's and get some hair extensions.
Well, you see, the deal is white guys should not shave their heads. You know, a lot of white guys do, and they grow little goatees and wear these little goggle sunglasses, swimmers goggle sunglasses, and they all look the same. They all look like bullet head white dudes who shave their heads. You know, it's just not cool. So yeah, like Tim Kreinbrink, he's pretty much mostly gone, but he's got he's got a little hair there.
He does.
You know, I even know a completely bald guy with a ponytail, which I don't recommend personally. When I go completely bald, I'm not going to grow a ponytail. But anyway, Chris Patrick is here from Main Street. And again, open for business is Monday the 29th to do contestants. We've already got our 2 contestants.
Right.
It's Mary Kay and Angela's what?
Angela Davis.
Angela Davis.
Right. So our contest actually ended on the 15th of April. And so,
okay.
So yeah, so it was open for about 6 weeks for people that are in the downtown to register. You had to be in the Main Street district, and your business had to be open for at least 1 year. So you could either be expanding your business, you could be adding new product lines. It even could be something like a delivery truck. So this grant from Iowa Economic Development Authority really has a wide range of ways that a business can expand. They do it every year. They started in 2015, and hopefully they'll just keep going every single year. So 53 communities in the state are able to apply to this. And so this is the first year that Fort Dodge jumped in and tried this. So we're excited that both of these ladies stepped forward. You know, Mary Kay has started her Merle Norman studio, and that's what she's
I heard
hoping
something about that, yeah.
to expand.
We used to have Merle Norman Cosmetics here in town. They had a place over in the Warden Plaza, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
wow.
But that was a few years ago. So, well, it's great Mary Kay's thinking of that then. I mean, they're a very innovative family over there, of course.
They sure are.
And I saw the other day that they are trying to help young people who would like to be pharmacists with a scholarship opportunity, which is terrific, because Daniel Pharmacy has been over there since the early 60s. And they're one of the last great family businesses and pharmacies in our town. We used to have 2 pharmacies right on that block, Weevil on one end and Daniel on the other. But
Oh, wow.
Weevil's been gone a long time.
Have they?
And, yeah, and Daniel's, of course, is going stronger than ever, and they have long hours and work 6 days a week, and it's really a true family business. Speaking of Daniel, Brett Daniel, the Public Works Director, will be involved in the 2 S's. This is from Main Street Matters, put on by Main Street Fort Dodge here. The 2 S's mean snow and streets.
Exactly.
We're past the snow thing, aren't we, Chris?
Well,
I
we
mean-
are, but we have to kind of look back, even though we don't want to, and see what happened with the snow in the downtown. I think the city did a great job of clearing and moving that 23 inches of snow we got in 10 days.
Yeah, a little rough there.
It was, yeah, it was really rough for a few days. So it's like, while it's fresh in our minds and we can still complain about it, let's talk to Brett and find better ways to move the snow around next year so the building owners aren't following the ordinance and then it gets pushed back on their sidewalks. So no, I look forward to that conversation tonight. And then also hopefully Brett can tell us, things about the streets during the summer, whether there's going to be any work done downtown, or we're really looking to doing a streetscape master plan here in the next probably 3 years, talking about the brick that's failing in the crosswalks and things like that. Just starting that conversation and hopefully opening up, into that, the arts build grant that I can't talk. We're working on too. So we'll see, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Now
So-
this is this evening.
It is. It's tonight.
Yeah.
So it's actually, again, open to the public. Really, anybody that comes downtown and shops and wants to chime in about how the snow should be moved, or if you own a business or property in the downtown, we'll be at Candies and More. Terry Cook has been
Terry, my man.
Oh my gosh, the food that he's making for tonight. We've got meatballs and veggie trays and all of this great food. So please come on over. Great little conversation. We'll be there for an hour. We usually start on time and end on time. So we respect the time of everybody that comes, especially those that have businesses that are still open in the evening.
Yeah, that's Brett Daniel talking about snow removal improvements and other street-related matters. Brett is our public work director. Even if you don't care to hear the talk, you ought to go over to Candies and More, because I'll tell you, they got a great shop in there. You've been in there, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So if you'd like more information on any of these topics, Main Street's number is 573-3172, or you can email Chris Patrick. I know a lot of Chris's, by the way, male and female. Or email Chris at mainstreetfd.org. That's Chris with a K, Chris at mainstreetfd.org. Open for Business contest, once again, coming up April 30th. And that's Mary Kay's Gifts and Home Decor, and Angela's Hair and More Beauty Supply. Where's Angela's Hair and More?
So she's actually on 12th Street, kind of catty corner from Dodger Tap.
Okay.
So there is the Collection, that antique store, and then there's that little strip mall. I think she's the second or third door north of that. So nice little store. I've been in there a few times. She's got some really cool clothes in there besides, beauty products and hair extensions and things like that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I things go on in your own backyard. I don't even know about these things, but this is a great idea. Again, is this something that Main Street Iowa was involved in, and we got involved as part of that, or is this something that you came up with, you and your?
No, I can't take credit for this one. I'd like to, but Robin Bostrom, she's the business specialist, one of the business specialists for Main Street Iowa. She came up with this, I said, in 2015, and you have to be a Main Street community to participate. So when I was in Sheraton, the very first year we had a business that participated in this. It was a lot of fun. So I really think both Angela and Mary Kay are going to get a lot out of this. When Angela dropped off her application or her video to my office, she's like, I learned so much about my business just doing this. So even the process was good for her. So,
yeah, I should have brought them with you.
Yeah.
I know Mary Kay, of course, and her family, most of her family. I've never had the pleasure of meeting Angela. So
great.
Yeah,
She's great. She's so much fun.
Oh,
so,
I bet. Yeah. Well, the next time, feel free to bring anyone that we're talking about like this and involved in these types of things. By the way, Main Street Matters is a monthly meeting each month. Where is that held? Is that over at your office or?
So no, we actually rotate different businesses.
Really?
So we're really trying to get out in the community and have people meet their neighbors and really understand about their stores and stuff. Now, I think everybody knows Candies and More.
Everybody does. Yeah.
Right?
And everybody knows Terry too. Terry and his wife.
Definitely, especially with him, organizing Frontier Days. We've been in Kingsgate. They have a great meeting space there. So thank you very much to Ryan Smith for doing that. We've been all over. We've been doing this for about a year now. So still looking for a space to have our meeting in May. We're going to talk about the Arts Build grant that we got from Iowa Arts Council. We're dealing with refuse in the downtown, recycling, and also how to camouflage dumpsters. So that's going to be our topic next month, is how to better, beautify the downtown.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's great. Now, Main Street Matters, these meetings, who can go to those, or just
open to the public?
Open to the public. How do we find out about these events?
So you have to give me your email address, and then I will send you a newsletter. It's also usually on our event page on Facebook and then on our website. So you can check it out that way too. But Mike, I'll make sure that you hear about these.
I very much enjoy going, I think.
Yeah, we've talked about parking. We've talked about.
I remember Central Avenue in the old days when I'm not from Fort Dodge, but I remember it.
Yeah.
And it was a way cool place, I'll tell you.
Yeah, we're planning some really fun things for fall and the Sesquicentennial that's happening the last week of September. So
the Sesquicentennial is coming up this September.
Yes, the 25th. Can you believe it?
How do I not know this?
We're 150 years old. We don't look it, though.
No. I look about 240, actually.
No.
All right, Chris Patrick from Main Street Ford Dodge is our guest. What else we got going on, Chris? Anything or everything? Or
Yeah, anything and everything is a really good way to say it. Like I said, the Arts Build community grant that we got, we're having a meeting today in about 30 minutes to talk about the next steps for that. We have $10,000 that we're going to be spending in the downtown. On May 8th, we've got 3 dumpsters we're going to be painting. So beautifying some dumpsters. We've ordered some new big self-watering planters for First Street North, First Avenue. I said it the wrong way. First Avenue South by the roundabout to kind of camouflage that alley where you see the dumpsters. So lots of stuff going on. And then Lunch on the Square will be happening again this summer too.
That's right. I was getting ready to ask you about Market on Central and Lunch on the Square and those things. When's that starting up? Let's start with Lunch on the Square.
So
when does that happen?
Lunch on the Square. The first one is June 28th. It's always the last Friday.
Well, it's a little ways off.
Right, a little ways off, but still planning. We're really lucky the retailers in the downtown are the ones that are coordinating the first lunch. So we're having, I believe, pulled pork and a potato salad and chips and a dessert. And then Market on Central, Lydia Schur at the Growth Alliance is in charge of that. And the first one is June 13th. It's a Thursday.
Okay.
And then I believe the date is July 20th. That's a Saturday. And then the last one will be the second Thursday of August.
Who do we have doing the cooking for Lunch on the Green? Or
the first one is the Dairyette. So
Okay.
Rich, if you've ever had his pulled pork, Rich Seltz,
yeah.
my goodness, it's to die for. He did that for us at one of
I'm a
our
regular
pop-ups.
customer.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Good food. So they are supplying the food the first time. And then the paper, the Messenger, is coordinating with the pork producers, I believe, for our next Lunch on the Square. And then Sneakers will be serving the third lunch.
Okay.
So
Are there just 3 of them through the summer?
just 3 of them this year.
Good. All right. Chris Patrick has been our guest. She's with Main Street Ford Dodge. Of course, if you need to get a hold of Chris or talk with someone at Main Street Ford Dodge, the number is 573-3172 or email Chris with a K, Chris at mainstreetfd.org. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Ford Dodge.
This is not vengeance. No, not vengeance. Punishment.
And now, Mayor Matt Bemrick, the Punisher.
All right. This is what do you think? Mayor Matt Bemrick, the Punisher. That's right. Don't mess with the mayor. He'll throw you out. It's 2:26.
Getting in front of early season disease pressure. Hello, I'm Megan Grebner, and this is Managing for Profit on Brownfield, a content partnership with Arista Life Science. Spring weather can be unpredictable, and this year has been no exception already. The inclement weather could leave growers battling additional crop diseases this year. In this Managing for Profit, Brent Titus with Arista Life Science explains what growers should watch for in the coming weeks. We'll find out more on Brownfield right after this.
There are a ton of social networking websites, but one stands apart for a very special reason. This one saves lives. It's MatchingDonors.com. MatchingDonors.com links organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. In the U.S., 22 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant, most of them for kidneys. If you've ever considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you're someone in need of an organ transplant, visit MatchingDonors.com, home of the greatest gift of all, the gift of life. MatchingDonors.com.
On the internet, there are tons of special networking websites, but one stands apart. This one saves lives. It's MatchingDonors.com. MatchingDonors.com links organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. Did you know in the U.S., 19 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant? If you've ever considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you're someone in need of an organ transplant, please visit MatchingDonors.com.
Generally speaking, later planting means warmer temperatures and less worry about cold and wet weather. But Brent Titus, Territory Sales Manager for Arista Life Science, says that isn't the case for spring 2019.
Most of the I states have experienced minimal temperature increase. Soil temperatures are very sporadic. Soil moisture is very high. We've not had heat to help us rid ourselves of those pathogens. You got to be thinking on the forefront that Pythium and Fusarium are going to be something we are certainly going to be concerned about, even with the late planting.
So what can growers do to reduce the risk of disease pressure? Titus says,
for me, all your seed corn is going to have fungicide seed treatment on it. If you're not currently treating your soybeans, I think it's a good investment. There are great fungicide treatments out there, several of them offered by UPL, and obviously your seed provider may have another option. But whether it's ours or somebody else's, you need to be thinking about using a fungicide seed treatment. That's going to last, in that 20-ish days range. And then we can get to more advanced programs, products that go in furrow with fungicides like our Tepera or Tepera Plus brands. They're going to have a longer window of control if you're set up for that starter or in furrow activity.
He tells Brownfield incorporating products that help mitigate the risk from disease become even more important as weather shortens the growing season and farmers push the envelope on planting conditions.
It's just ultra important that we protect that crop. I think fungicides in the ground, whether it be a seed treatment or in furrow, are our best management strategy.
Margins are tight, and Titus says growers are scrutinizing every expense. He says this isn't the place to cut costs.
In 2018, our on-farm studies with Zalera and Fortix at Illinois showed an average yield response in soybeans of about 7 bushels. We're setting up to have a very similar type year. Beans are going to go in early. They're going to have the opportunity for a lot of yield. That also brings the opportunity for a lot of disease. We realize that, we're not talking about $15 soybeans in 2019. Unfortunately, that probably makes every bushel we gain by disease management that much more valuable. And I know it's easy for the salesman to say, but you've really got to look at your return and not your risk in that situation.
I'm Megan Grebner with Managing for Profit on Brownfield, a content partnership with Arista Life Science.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Message and data rates may apply. Earning your degree from one of the top business schools in the country might sound impossible to fit into your workload. But what if there were a business degree that furthered your career and gave you access to world-renowned faculty, leaders, and mentors, all on your schedule? One that opened doors to some of the most influential CEOs, tech companies, law firms, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. And what if you could earn that degree in as little as 16 months, 100% online? To find out more, text DRIVE to 79645. That's DRIVE to 79645. Start your online MBA, Information Management, or Business Analytics Master's Program from the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University today. Learn more about the W.P. Carey Business Graduate Programs online. Text DRIVE to 79645. That's DRIVE to 79645.
Come on, kids, we're late.
Honey, the car won't start.
Mom, the dog just sat on my science project.
Life can be stressful, but getting life insurance shouldn't be. That's why there's Ethos. Ethos is a modern kind of life insurance that's super fast, incredibly affordable, and very uncomplicated. At GetEthos.com, there are no medical exams for policies covering under $1 million, no hours of paperwork or meetings with pushy representatives. It only takes 10 minutes to apply, and you can rest assured knowing you've taken steps to protect your family. And in most cases, with Ethos, you can have that peace of mind for less than a cup of coffee a day with no hidden fees. Having life insurance can free you from stress. Getting life insurance shouldn't cause it. Discover how uncomplicated life insurance can be at Ethos. Get your free instant quote and submit your complete application in minutes. Just go to GetEthos.com. That's ETHOS. GetEthos.com. GetEthos.com.
Good Samaritan Society Manson is seeking a certified activities director to be a part of their leadership team. Work 20 hours a week coordinating resident activities as well as the center's volunteer program. Enjoy the benefits of working in a Bronze Award 5-star Christian care facility. Qualified applicants may apply online for the activities director position at good-sam.com. Good Samaritan Society Manson is an equal opportunity employer. Women, minorities, and veterans are encouraged to apply.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. Central Iowa County continues to be among the fastest growing counties in the nation, while 66 of the 99 counties have lost population since 2010 in the state of Iowa. Dar Danielson has the details.
New 2018 information from the State Data Center shows Dallas County is the 8th fastest growing county in the nation. Dallas County grew by 36% since 2010, and its growth is part of an overall trend where the Des Moines metro area has grown by 15%. The fastest growing counties behind Dallas are Johnson at nearly 16% and Polk at 13%. More than half the state's population lives in one of 10 counties, all of which are in metro areas. The Iowa City Names metro areas are right behind the others of growth at 13.6% and 9.6%. Clinton County's lost the most residents since 2010 at 2,599 people. Emmett County declined at the fastest rate, losing 10.2% of its population, while Audubon County was right behind, losing 10%. Adams County has the smallest population in the state at 3,645. That compares to the state's largest county, Polk, which has a population of more than 487,000. 25 counties have populations below 10,000. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Now looking at Webster County's estimated population in July 2018, that was at 36,277. That's down 366 people when compared to July of last year. And it's down 1,736 when compared to the April 2010 census. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley applauds today's release of the still redacted version of the report investigating alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Grassley, a Republican, says tens of millions of taxpayer dollars were spent on the near 40-page report. He says it should be made public with the exception of a few key areas.
You get accountability with transparency. Obviously,
Peter, is that you?
It is.
Peter, please call back in 6 minutes. I got a little behind, but yeah, please call back at 2:41. We'll be perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Bye.
His job's finished, and if he wants to testify, he's going to have to testify within the law.
Grassley says parts of the report do need to be kept secret, like sections involving people who are questioned but who are not indicted. Those people could have their reputations ruined. Grassley says if it came out that they were investigated by Mueller. In addition, Grassley says sections of the report that could jeopardize our nation's security should not be published or discussed by Mueller if he chooses to testify before Congress.
I would expect that he would respect that law. He's an honorable man. He's testified many times before me, both as chairman and member of the Judiciary Committee over several years that he was FBI director.
During a news conference in Washington, D.C. this morning, the U.S. Attorney General William Barr said the Mueller report found no collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign or any other Americans. With little fanfare, after more than a decade of missed attempts, the Iowa Senate has voted to legalize sports betting in Iowa. 19 Republicans and a dozen Democrats teamed up to vote yes on the bill, while 18 senators opposed it. Senator Robbie Smith of Bettendorf is the only senator to speak during Wednesday evening's debate. Under the plan, wagering on professional and college sports is to be managed by the 19 state licensed casinos in Iowa. Gamblers in Iowa will be able to use a smartphone app to place those bets.
I believe what we're doing in this bill is the right thing to do. Sports wagering is something I'm not fully eager to participate in myself, but that does not mean we cannot ensure that Iowans have the best experience for those that choose to participate.
The bill also legalizes fantasy sports prizes connected to the performance of professional athletes. It is currently illegal for an Iowan to claim winnings from sites like FanDuel, DraftKings, or other online fantasy sports games. The sports wagering issue now moves over to the House, where legislation similar to what passed the Senate is eligible for debate. And Iowa businesses and individuals soon will get some limited protection from lawsuits if they hire people with a nonviolent criminal record. Governor Reynolds approved that new law on Wednesday.
The bill reflects Iowans' belief in redemption and second chances. Most offenders will reenter society, and when they do, we want them to be successful. And too often, employers have overlooked skilled workers with past criminal offenses because of fear of lawsuits.
The shield from liability does not apply in cases where a past criminal conviction disqualifies someone from an occupation or certain jobs. That's a look at local news for the newsroom. I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge 238. First of all, on the weather, it's 51 degrees. Going to be cloudy the rest of today. Maybe a high of 56. Windy, of course, overnight, mostly cloudy. Then clear toward morning with a low of 36. Still getting pretty cold at night. On Friday, tomorrow, sunny with a high of 63. Saturday, sunny with a high of 73. On Sunday, slight chance of a shower. Otherwise, partly sunny with a high of 66. Happy Easter Sunday, by the way. On Monday, a chance of rain, then a chance of showers late in the day, sunny in between with a high of 63. On Tuesday, chance of rain, mostly cloudy with a high of 60. On Wednesday, it'll be sunny with a high of 65 degrees. Right now, once again, 51 degrees at AM 1400. KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Maria Vasquez has died. Maria Vasquez of Fort Dodge has died at the age of 67. She died on Tuesday at the Paula J. Baber Hospice Home. There will be a mass of Christian burial for Maria Vasquez, and that'll be held at 10:30 in the morning Tuesday, the 23rd, at Sacred Heart Church, with Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services serving the family. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. It's 2:40 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 51 degrees. With a look at the closing market report, here is Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. May corn up a quarter penny to close at 358.5. July up a quarter cent to 367.25. September unchanged at 375, and December down a half a cent at 386.25. May soybeans up 1.5 at 880.5. July up 1 3/4 at 894.25. August up 1.5 at $9 even, and November beans up 1 1/4 at $913.5. May wheat closed down 2 3/4 at $444.25. Soybean meal down 70 cents a ton at $303.20. April live cattle up 160 at $128.52. June up 30 at $122.67. April feeder cattle up 37 cents at $145.70. May up 92 at $151.52. May lean hogs up 127 at $90.20. June up 62 at $96.75, and July down 7 cents at $100.55. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Flood victims in Nebraska need our help. Alpha Media Fort Dodge is a designated donation site for the thousands of displaced people in Nebraska. Items needed are cleaning supplies, toiletries, diapers and baby wipes, new pillows and blankets, heavy-duty trash bags, snacks, bottled water, pet food, and hygiene items. If you can help our neighbors in Nebraska, please drop off your donations at our studios, 200 North 10th Street. All items will be delivered to Nebraska on Friday, April 26th. Special shout out to Chemna Auto at Fort Dodge for all the help. Thank you from all of us at Alpha Media.
Winter's grip is finally giving way to the arrival of spring, and that can only mean one thing for growers everywhere. It's go time. For your critical last-minute seed decisions, Nutrien Ag Solutions is your ag retailer of the future, the most knowledgeable and trusted growing partner with the best hybrids and varieties available to ensure maximum performance from planting through harvest. Contact your local Nutrien Ag Solutions crop consultant now while hybrids and varieties are available, or visit futureof.ag/seeds to learn more today.
This is not vengeance. No, not vengeance. Punishment. And now, Mayor Matt Bemrick, the Punisher.
That's right. Mayor Matt Bemrick is the Punisher. Don't mess with Matt. That's the new slogan around town, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get some bumper stickers that say, don't mess with Matt. By the way, don't mess with Dr. Peter Fisher of the Iowa Policy Project either, who joins us now. How are you, Peter?
I'm pretty good, Mike.
Well, thank you for calling back. I had to do a couple of things before I got Dr. Fisher on, so we were a little late getting Dr. Fisher on, but I'm glad that we did. Dr. Fisher, of course, is with the Iowa Policy Project, a group in Iowa City that's dedicated to fact-based information they hope will affect public policy. And, of course, the conversation or the argument maybe I have with David Osterberg, Dr. Peter Fisher, and Mike Owen is of what use is fact and research when we have our opinions. And so to find out more about a very worthy organization, the Iowa Policy Project, go to iowapolicyproject.org or iowafiscal.org. What is ALEC? What is the American Legislative Exchange Council, Peter?
Well, that's a group of state legislators and lobbyists and large corporate donors and members who get together at conferences, and they have little groups where they come up with legislation that they would like, particularly that some of the corporate sponsors of the organization would like to push, and then they send all the anointed legislators out back to their home states to try to pass that legislation.
Exactly.
It's a bill mill for the right wing.
Yeah, it is a group that works tirelessly on behalf of business, and business has their own priority, and they're very simple, really. Business and the Republican Party, as far as I'm concerned, exist for two reasons: to keep business regulations down, to keep taxes down, and there has been a new entry now to make sure that we have cheap labor. So that's ALEC's real mission, no matter what they want to say. Stephen Moore is a well-known writer and member of ALEC and a well-known conservative. He has been, I thought that his nomination to the Federal Reserve Board, had been turned down. What's his status right now? Is he on the board, off the board? Where's he at?
As far as I know, he has not been considered by the Senate yet. I checked on that today. So his nomination is still live. Herman Cain, the other one, there's some doubt whether he's going to keep his name in the ring.
I think we blew him out, didn't we? I think we blew out Herman.
I think he's probably gone. Yeah.
But some would say that Stephen Moore, depending on your point of view, is more dangerous than Herman Cain ever thought of being. He's kind of an under-the-radar guy, even though some of his proposals are fairly bold. Why should we be concerned that Stephen Moore would be on the Federal Reserve Board?
Well, because they're charged with some pretty serious work in terms of maintaining the stability of the American economy, and knowing exactly how to do that and what to say about it when is pretty important. I mean, you see the stock market go crazy if one word is a little bit different than the Fed statement. So, they have power over interest rates, and that has a lot of effect on the economy. So you want somebody who actually knows what they're doing when it comes to the economy, and Stephen Moore does not know what he's doing. Ask any serious economist what they think about Stephen Moore, and one of them said recently, the economics professor at University of Michigan, he said he's a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad pick. He hasn't gotten a thing right in 20 years.
I wish he wouldn't hold back, Stop holding in your true feelings, for God's sake. I think Stephen Moore is like most lobbyists. He has a singular fixation, and it is to push forward the ideas of the American Legislative Exchange Council and corporate America. These are not. You got to understand, corporate America doesn't need Main Street businesses. The reason we have big box retailers now and all the mom and pop stores are gone is because Ronald Reagan believed that those who put together large organizations like, say, Walmart, they had proved their worth in the world already, and they should naturally be allowed to grow. And if smaller businesses couldn't keep up, well, that's tough. That's why we have one of the reasons why we have a shell for main streets all over the state of Iowa and in the country is because of that basic Reaganist belief system. And ALEC has got to be part of that. They put out every year something called Rich States, Poor States. They compare rich states and poor states. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and they just put out a new one. They released it on tax day on Monday. And Iowa was right in the middle again. We're about 25th, but that's neither here nor there. The main thing to focus on when you look at that report is what it aims to do and how little actual empirical support it is for the claims that they make. I mean, they claim to have come up with this system for ranking states that's going to predict how well their economy is going to perform. They call it the Economic Outlook ranking. And what everybody who's looked at it, taken a serious look at it, including myself, has discovered that, lo and behold, the states that are ranked highly by ALEC don't do any better. In fact, they often do worse than the states that ALEC says are economic disaster. Just look at the latest one. 4 states that, of course, ALEC hates because of their liberal policies: New York, Washington, Oregon, and California. The East Coast and the West Coast. ALEC always puts them and Stephen Moore, he is the co-author of this thing. They always put them in the bottom 10. Their policies are going to lead to economic disaster. When you flip to page 2 of the report, that's their performance rankings. Let's see how the states actually did. New York, Washington, Oregon, California, they're all in the top 10.
Yeah, I know.
In their own report.
Yeah, I know. They hate them for their ideology. They're really, these guys are, guys like Moore, they're just, they're servants to the king. That's all they are. I mean, they come out and proselytize for these policies that benefit so few people on earth that if you look through what they're doing and get past all the Mary Sunshine conversation about economic freedom, what they're really talking about is freedom for very few people to get even wealthier. And apparently, from what I understand of the psychology of these folks, they want to get wealthier for just for wealth's sake. It's almost a competition between 200 people in the world. That last part's an exaggeration, but no, that's no. Stephen Moore again is an economist. But
he's sort of an economist. I mean, he's not a PhD economist. He's never published anything in an economic journal in his life, but he does second-rate economic research that most students would get an F for if they turned it in an undergraduate econ paper. Kind of scary having somebody that cavalier with data, or just not even trained to use it properly, making decisions about monetary policy for the whole country.
Yeah, well, again, to teach economists, to teach economics, or to think about economics is not his job. His job is to use economic principles to further a cause. He's a lobbyist. Again, he's a servant to the king. We have to understand that about these guys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's whatever data he can find that he can put together and mishmash in some way that looks like it might support his ideology. That's what he'll come up with, whether it makes any actual sense or not.
Now, he's a founding member. Stephen Moore is a founding member of something called a Club for Growth. Now, if you want to find out more about Stephen Moore and how he thinks and operates, find out about the Club for Growth. They don't have your best interests in mind. And by the way, when I say they don't have your best interests in mind, I'm talking about anybody within earshot of my voice right now. And I have a radius of 60 miles on this radio station. I know there's a few wealthy people out there, but these folks don't care. These folks don't really care.
Yeah, that's right. I thought they'd been around longer than that. The Club for Growth, yeah, I'm just looking that up. It's only been around since 1999.
Oh, well, he's also, he would point to these things, and his supporters would point to these things, like he is a founding member of the Club for Growth, and he was a member of the editorial board in the Wall Street Journal, and he is the chief economist for the Heritage Foundation. Now, the Heritage Foundation obviously needed a chief economist. They didn't call you, Peter?
They did not.
No.
Maybe I was gone. I don't know. They probably tried,
Every Monday I talk with a libertarian economist from Southern Methodist University by the name of Dr. Dean Stansel. And he's probably not a Stephen Moore guy, but he definitely believes that that taxes are and any business regulation is a bad thing. Why is he wrong?
Well, particularly if you look at state and local taxes, which is what he's doing here in these this rich states, poor states thing. It's actually not that they're not that big a factor in terms of business costs. I mean, that's not really what matters. What matters is the labor force, the productivity, wages, transportation, access to markets. That's what determines where businesses locate by and large. And once they've picked a place, they'd love to be able to stage a competition and find out who's willing to cut their tax bill the most on top of it. But that's not really what drives the decision.
Here, I'll make Stephen Moore real unpopular here with at least half the population. Stephen Moore was divorced, and in 2012, a court in Virginia ordered him held in contempt of court for failing to pay his ex-wife $300,000 in spousal support, child support, and other obligations. There you go, ladies. There you go. Skipped out on his wife. Had a lot of money, didn't pay her. Oh, yeah, you hate Stephen Moore now, don't you? That's right. That's right. How do you see your profession? How do you see economics? What good is the study of economics from your standpoint? What is the purpose of business from your standpoint?
Well, wow, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the economy is not simple. Figuring out what makes it tick, what causes growth, what causes recessions and expansions. That's been something that's fascinated politicians and economists for a long time. I think it's important to make policy on government spending and interest rates and tax policy with some sense of what kinds of effects it's going to have. And along those lines, for example, you can do research, and has been done, on what kind of tax cuts would have the most effect in stimulating the economy if we're in a recession, for example. That'd be a good thing to know. And it turns out that if you cut the taxes of low-wage working people, that's where the money is. I mean, that's where the impact is, because you're putting it in the hands of people who are going to turn around and spend it. And the least effective way of stimulating the economy with a given dollar tax cuts is to hand it all to the rich like we just did. So if you shovel enough money in their direction, you're going to see some effect on the economy. But we could have had that much effect with a much smaller tax cut. And in fact, we weren't in a recession, so you wonder why that was the right time to do a tax cut to begin with. But at any rate, there's an example of what I see as a useful thing for the economics profession to be able to do.
Well, frankly, Peter, working, and you know this as well as I do, that working people have been getting screwed throughout history, and I doubt it'll change. I mean, look what we had for a choice in the last election. Hillary Clinton was a corporate tool. Donald Trump is a mess. He's an absolute dumpster fire, and that's being kind. But Hillary Clinton, if you recall, was giving speeches for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and she wouldn't reveal what she told some of the biggest Wall Street financiers ever. She wouldn't tell any of us what she promised them. In other words, Hillary Clinton, and I've always felt this about her, she absolutely has some sort of loathsome prejudice against working people. And it showed, and she lost. And that's not entirely bad from my point of view. And that's, for me to sit here and say that to this day is amazing, because what I'm saying is it's good that Donald Trump was elected. No, I'm not. Don't hang that on me. I'm just saying that maybe it's not a bad idea she lost, and it's nothing against her gender or any of that nonsense. It's just that we need somebody with a better attitude toward 98% of the people in our country, because we seem to forget about them a lot. I don't know if I talked more than you this time around, Peter. Maybe I did. I apologize if I did.
All right.
But I do appreciate you being on. Dr. Peter Fisher is an economist with the Iowa Policy Project, and I urge you to go to the iowapolicyproject.org or iowafiscal.org. Great information there. Information and facts are good. I think we can agree on that, can't we, Peter?
We can.
All right, man. Hey, thank you, Peter.
All right, thank you.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD. We're done.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
Okay. Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau chair. We'll talk with him in just a minute. Right after the news, as a matter of fact. This is AM 1400 the voice before done.
What happens when two of the largest Iowa-based financial institutions, both credit unions, make over $100 million a year in profits and pay no income tax? Iowa families shoulder a higher tax burden, while big credit unions enjoy a free ride. So Iowa families must pay more to fund services like education, healthcare, and priorities like improving Iowa's water quality. Iowa families deserve a break. Let's end big credit unions' free ride. Paid for by Iowa leaders in education and advocacy.
Here's Tony Romo for Skechers Slip-On Footwear.
I like to make my life easy. I got a car that can drive itself, a robot that vacuums my whole house, and Skechers slip-ons. They don't have laces, so I can just slip them on and off, and they take comfort to another level. They're flexible, breathable, and have Skechers air-cooled memory foam. Plus, they come in a wide variety of current styles. Skechers slip-ons. You'll never want to wear anything else.
Try Skechers Slip-Ons with air-cooled memory foam today. Skechers, comfort included.
This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge. Coming up, Fox News, local news, the weather, and Steve Peterson with the Farm Bureau. So be listening right here at AM 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge.
If you're a gearhead or not,
Hi, this is Sam. How are you?
We're going to have to start this next week.
Okay.
I talked to myself 10 times now. Call or text Sam Clovis and tell him and I forgot, and it's this fault, but we'll have you on twice next week.
Okay. Well, sure. I mean, it was a great week this week, and today was a fabulous day. So it was fabulous. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll call. Yeah, 12:30 tomorrow.
Yeah, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We'll see you.
Obstruction, concluding if investigators had confidence clearly that the president clearly did not commit obstruction of justice, they would have said so, but were unable to reach that judgment. Rich.
Jared, the special counsel found evidence of other crimes outside his scope of authority and made 14 criminal referrals to other federal authorities. 2 of those referrals have been made public. 12 remain a secret. Another privacy breach by Facebook.
According to Business Insider, the tech giant collected the email contacts of 1.5 million users without their knowledge. Consent. The contacts were then used to improve Facebook's ad targeting and friend recommendation feature. Facebook says the data was unintentionally uploaded and will be. The company will notify the 1.5 million users affected in the coming days.
Fox's Carly Shimkus. Stocks ending the day in positive territory. The Dow up 110 points, the S&P up 5, with the NASDAQ 2 points higher at the closing bell. This is Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring is prime home buying season, so if you're thinking about buying a home, right now is the time to lock a low rate, which can save you money every month on your new mortgage. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed rate loans. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hours after testing a new weapon, North Korea tells the U.S. it doesn't want to negotiate with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
North Korea saying it no longer wants to deal with Mike Pompeo and that he should be replaced in talks about North Korea's nuclear weapons program with someone more mature. A senior North Korean official saying negotiations can go wrong, quote, whenever Pompeo pokes his nose in. The demand coming hours after North Korea announced its first test since a summit between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un broke down in February. Simon Owen, Fox News.
Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan today confirming that North Korean weapon launch.
It was a test. Yeah.
It wasn't a significant altitude.
It's not a ballistic missile.
Shanahan says the launch didn't trigger any change in U.S. military posture. The test did not appear to involve any banned mid or long-range missile that could damage ongoing nuclear talks. A new survey shows most millennials still depend on their parents for money.
A new Merrill Lynch Age Wave survey, which says 7 in 10 adults ages 18 to 34 received financial support from their parents in the last year, more than half of those in their early 30s. The survey also shows that almost 3 in 5 millennials said they couldn't afford their lifestyles without that support. Though despite that reliance, 3/4 of millennials say that financial independence from their parents is the measure of reaching adulthood. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
A bobcat attacked a golfer in Connecticut this morning and was beaten off by golf clubs before it was tracked down and shot by authorities. The manager of Mohegan Sun Golf Course says a foursome was near a bunker on the 7th hole when the cat jumped on one man's back. The golfer was treated for scratches. It's believed the bobcat attacked a horse earlier in the day. I'm Rich Dennison, and this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. Central Iowa County continues to be among the fastest growing counties in the nation, while 66 of the 99 counties have lost population since 2010 in the state of Iowa. Dar Danielson has the details.
New 2018 information from the State Data Center shows Dallas County is the 8th fastest growing county in the nation. Dallas County grew by 36% since 2010, and its growth is part of an overall trend where the Des Moines metro area has grown by 15%. The fastest growing counties behind Dallas are Johnson at nearly 16% and Polk at 13%. More than half the state's population lives in one of 10 counties, all of which are in metro areas. The Iowa City Names metro areas are right behind the others of growth at 13.6% and 9.6%. Clinton County's lost the most residents since 2010 at 2,599 people. Emmett County declined at the fastest rate, losing 10.2% of its population, while Audubon County was right behind, losing 10%. Adams County has the smallest population in the state at 3,645. That compares to the state's largest county, Polk, which has a population of more than 487,000. 25 counties have populations below 10,000. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Now looking at Webster County's estimated population in July 2018, that was at 36,277. That's down 366 people when compared to July of last year. And it's down 1,736 when compared to the April 2010 census. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley applauds today's release of the still redacted version of the report investigating alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Grassley, a Republican, says tens of billions of taxpayer dollars were spent on the near 40-page report. He says it should be made public with the exception of a few key areas.
You get accountability with transparency. Obviously, that doesn't apply to grand jury and hurting people's privacy or hurting national security.
Grassley says he will not join with Democratic leaders who are calling for Special Counsel Robert Mueller to testify before Congress about the report he compiled over the last 22 months.
Well, that's up to Mueller. I've stayed out of what the special counsel's doing. I want him to finish job. His job's finished. And if he wants to testify, he's going to have to testify within the law.
Grassley says parts of the report do need to be kept secret, like sections involving people who are questioned but who are not indicted. Those people could have their reputations ruined. Grassley says if it came out that they were investigated by Mueller. In addition, Grassley says sections of the report that could jeopardize our nation's security should not be published or discussed by Mueller if he chooses to testify before Congress.
I would expect that he would respect that law. He's an honorable man. He's testified many times before me, both as chairman and member of the Judiciary Committee over several years that he was FBI director.
During a news conference in Washington, D.C. this morning, the U.S. Attorney General William Barr said the Mueller report found no collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign or any other Americans. With little fanfare, after more than a decade of missed attempts, the Iowa Senate has voted to legalize sports betting in Iowa. 19 Republicans and a dozen Democrats teamed up to vote yes on the bill, while 18 senators opposed it. Senator Robbie Smith of Bettendorf is the only senator to speak during Wednesday evening's debate. Under the plan, wagering on professional and college sports is to be managed by the 19 state licensed casinos in Iowa. Gamblers in Iowa will be able to use a smartphone app to place those bets.
I believe what we're doing in this bill is the right thing to do. Sports wagering is something I'm not fully eager to participate in myself, but that does not mean we cannot ensure that Iowans have the best experience for those that choose to participate.
The bill also legalizes fantasy sports prizes connected to the performance of professional athletes. It is currently illegal for an Iowan to claim winnings from sites like FanDuel, DraftKings, or other online fantasy sports games. The sports wagering issue now moves over to the House, where legislation similar to what passed the Senate is eligible for debate. And Iowa businesses and individuals soon will get some limited protection from lawsuits if they hire people with a nonviolent criminal record. Governor Reynolds approved that new law on Wednesday.
The bill reflects Iowans' belief in redemption and second chances. Most offenders will reenter society, and when they do, we want them to be successful. And too often, employers have overlooked skilled workers with past criminal offenses because of fear of lawsuits.
The shield from liability does not apply in cases where a past criminal conviction disqualifies someone from an occupation or certain jobs. That's a look at local news for the newsroom. I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. High of 56 this afternoon under overcast skies, winds out of the north 15 to 20 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 36. Tonight, clear skies. Ample sunshine expected again tomorrow. High of 63. Mid 70s. Saturday, much cooler. Sunday with highs in the mid 60s and storms. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 51.
This is Chris Heslop with Star Energy FS. I understand that time is a precious commodity, especially when it comes to your operation. That's why I am dedicated to be the best at providing business solutions for your operation. FS proudly supports the local communities we serve and is committed to helping your operation continue to run smoothly so that you can spend more time with those you care the most about. Star Energy FS is your local, reliable supplier for fuel, lubricant, and propane needs. FS, the people and the products to take you further.
Today, business happens here, and virtually anywhere. Because today, innovative companies are reinventing the way business happens, and they need people who can keep up. With the expertise and technology to get packages to over 150 million delivery points. So, who can help you deliver the future of commerce? The United States Postal Service. See why we deliver more e-commerce packages to homes than anyone at USPS.com/future.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
All right, here we go. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for God. Yeah, we're going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. Joining me now, I know he's usually on Tuesday, but Steve Peterson with the Farm Bureau, Webster County Farm Bureau, needed to get a little field work done on, or maybe it was machinery work, doesn't make any difference. Monday and Tuesday when we had nicer days, but so yeah, I hope you got it done.
I was actually in the field.
You were in the field?
Yep, I've been in a tractor, so.
You have been. Well, what did you get done?
I got some stalks.
Scratch a little ground, or what?
Scratch a little ground deck, put some pre-emerge chemicals down, and I was kind of waiting patiently to see what our last little event with Mother Nature would be. And, that's kind of spotty. I was hoping for a little more warmth and sun today to do some drying, but maybe by tomorrow we'll be able to get back out and start doing some more things. So,
One of these days, if you're on the tractor sometime, call in.
Okay.
Call in. We'll put you on live on the air,
Okay.
That radio stations all over the state used to do that. They kind of got away from it now.
Yeah.
I don't even think WHO in Des Moines does it anymore, but I'm bringing it back.
Okay. I'll remember that. But it's
do
just, out in the country right now, it's kind of hit and miss. There's a lot of different things going on. You'll see a lot of sprayers going on. There's a lot of guys that are trying to get anhydrous ammonia put on. That's been kind of a hit and miss. There's been some logistical challenges, I understand, with getting product. Our anhydrous generally in this area of the state is we do a lot of fall applied anhydrous ammonia. And then we use nitrification inhibitors, and that's kind of the fancy word for that's the special stuff we put in it, so it doesn't leach into the waterways and stuff. So that's kind of our protection against it. And last fall, it'd probably be safe to say that about less than 10% of normal got applied. So this year, in a best case scenario, we were looking for hopefully an early March window, or those early springs we get sometimes to try to get some of that stuff done. And unfortunately, the way it's worked out, a lot of that so 90% and almost the entire window of putting on anhydrous ammonia has been compressed here to about a 1 or 2 week window.
Okay,
and that's really challenged the co-ops and the other retailers for the equipment and just getting the product. The system really isn't designed to put this much product on at one time. So
the system, what are you talking about?
The infrastructure, like the Coke plant over between Fort Dodge and Webster City, they manufacture anhydrous ammonia.
Yeah.
There's another facility, a storage facility over at Early. There's a couple pipelines within central Iowa that the product is shipped up from other manufacturers, and then there's also the possibility of getting it in on rail. And a lot of times, a lot of these cooperatives, especially, they will contract drivers and tank wagons out, and so a lot of those drivers are actually from the south or different regions of the country, and they'll come up and haul the product in those big. They're kind of the same tanks, I guess, used to haul LP or stuff like that. Well, getting them has been a challenge too. So there's a lot of transportation issues, logistics that are to put this much product on in this short a window. So I know some co-ops are they're rationing the tanks or the amount of product that can go out. So everyone's seems to be moving along. But luckily, it sounds like our neighbors to the south, you get kind of Highway 30 and down there, it looks like some of them are starting to get done, and we'll hopefully see that wave kind of push through this part of the state next.
Well, it's always different. I mean, I'm up north in Northwest. They got later and more precipitation than we did.
Yes.
So they'll be behind. Last year, I noticed that, and I was talking with some folks down at the farm show in Boone. We were getting way too much rain up here, and they were in a drought down in southeast Iowa.
Yeah, actually they were. It was but it's different soils too.
There is different soils.
I'm not an expert on this soil deal, but we're kind of in a glacial lobe in this area, and you get I'm in Slifer, and you get down towards Jefferson, and that kind of ends. You start getting a little more roll in the hills, and the ground gets a little more sandy, a little lighter. And it's just the makeup of how the soils were deposited. And, in this area, we have some pretty heavy black soils generally. And so how those dry out, how they drain, that becomes a big issue. So there's a lot of farmers, they're out almost daily checking fields, seeing how they're drying out. Because the other thing that can be challenging in the spring is if you go in and work a field too wet in the springtime, boy, you can live with that all year long in the growing season, and you can do some real damage. In the fall, we tend to get away with a little more. It's because we have Mother Nature and we have the freezing and thawing. So it's just every year is unique. I have not heard. A lot of times we'll hear references to this year will mimic 1971 or something like that. I really haven't heard a comparison year. I guess that seems to be a lot of people will compare against a certain year. Or
comparison for what year? Last year?
No, like the weather patterns.
Okay.
The kind of the gold standards. What I've always heard is the droughts of 36 and the floods of 93 and stuff like that. And they'll compare.
There were floods.
Sure. But I haven't really heard a lot of comparison years yet. I know Elwyn Taylor seems to always be able to spiel out, the weather patterns are mimicking that particular year. And it's amazing how truthful they can be. And they measure a lot of factors, the ocean temperatures and the El Nino and La Ninas and I kind of look about 2-3 days ahead. And last year I was, we had a lot of weather last year. We had nothing forecasted, and we'd get 3 to 5 inches of rain. So I'm a little gun shy on going too far out in the forecast, but it looks like we might have a short window this weekend, and then again next week it looks like it's a toss up for maybe a little more precip in the forecast. So.
Well, it's a little bit wetter April, but it hasn't been I've seen worse Aprils, like 93, for example.
Sure.
But
now you get out of our area and you go, of course, over into western Iowa on the river, and that's a whole different.
Well, it is. In Nebraska out there is a big mess.
Yes,
there's no doubt.
And there's still a lot of frustration, and I think I seen, and it was expected, the totals of the damages are, I believe, now in excess of $2 billion, which was normally. I mean, I would anticipate that as the waters receded and they get it examined more roads, infrastructures, and I'm sure some bridges and a lot of things are compromised. Chance, as we talked off air, when you're out in the tractor cab, I don't listen to a lot of news necessarily, but it looked like we had a lot of our Washington delegation and from Iowa and Nebraska and the states, they sound like they had a pretty contentious meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yes, they did. From what I understand, that was in the news today.
Yeah, that sounds like they kind of put them on the hot seat of, who's, what their role is in trying to define some of those actions. And the trouble is, I mean, I get it, but yet there's no crystal ball. And, and
sometimes you got to blame somebody.
Sure. And, and it's real easy sometimes looking after the fact of what maybe should have been done and this and that. So
2020 hindsight, it's a great thing.
But hopefully they'll use, I'm sure the Corps will be looking at their data and maybe they're interpreting their data in a way that's not representative of some of the actions they need to be doing. And the Army Corps, I think why they're in the hot seat for a lot of people that don't understand, they're pretty much in control of the dams and the flood, or the release of waters. And here in this part of the state, I guess what we would see probably most common would be Saylorville. And, those are pretty impressive pictures when they've got the floodgates open and they always show the feet and the flood stage.
Oh,
yeah. But that's the Army Corps of Engineers that controls that. So there's definitely some finger pointing going on, like maybe the Corps didn't have things let down enough, knowing. But it was just such an anomaly this spring with the rain, the snow, the weather systems that I think it would be hard to second guess. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm sure there's some things could be done different in hindsight, but.
Well, some people in Washington, again, and in business, it happens. Is if you get a manager somewhere or a boss, he thinks being a good manager is, he or she thinks being a good manager is to find somebody to blame when something happens.
Sure.
And it seems to be, I don't know the full story. I'm certainly not an engineer.
Right.
But it seems like they were taking the Army Corps of Engineers the Army Corps of Engineers to task for things that were done years ago.
Right.
Years ago.
So, but anyway, they're having those conversations, and I know there's a lot of public outcry for that, and then there's a lot of organizations I know that have been rallying funds and like fencing supplies and feed and hay and to help some of those folks out in those regions, and I think a lot of that is still being assessed and still being put together. so there's a lot of groups that have been really spearheading, trying to help those people out.
Sure.
But again, I think a lot of it's still it's too soon to tell for some of it, and that's you got to feel for those people in those communities, because man, the water is just unreal. And then not a flood deal. Earlier, on Sunday we had that fire in Manson at that dealership, and
that was quite a mess.
And
I haven't seen it up, but I've seen pictures.
That's talk about a monkey wrench in the because that serves a lot of area. Casey Nielsen is pretty much the mainstay of John Deere and this central part of the state.
Yeah,
and
I didn't know they were as big as they were. Right.
Yeah, and they've been growing, quite a bit, acquiring some other dealerships and whatnot in the area. And John Deere, I think, promotes that. They like here in Central Iowa, it's pretty much Casey Nielsen and I think Van Wall down a little closer to Des Moines, Perry area.
Well, Ernie Williams covers a big area up there in Algona.
Casey Nielsen, I believe, bought them out last year.
Did they really?
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that.
That's in the Nielsen group, I believe. So that was, I believe, happened last year.
Did not know that. You very well could be right. I don't know.
So they, like I said, they've been growing, but it sounded like everyone's kind of stepped up. They happen to own some adjacent buildings on that property that used to be some other type businesses that were sitting. I think they were used for storage, and they've converted those. I believe the next day there was like an army that showed up, and the employees that work there, and they built temporary offices and having parts brought in. And the way I understand it, they were open for business Wednesday, and
sure,
be able to have their sales or service. And
well, when you got that big a supply chain out there, by
Sure.
supply chain, I mean all the other dealerships that they have. They've been in Humboldt I think Humboldt was the original store.
I believe so, yes.
But I know they're all over the place.
Yeah, and so no, it's but that was a huge event. A lot of fire departments were involved in that. A lot of manpower, a lot of coordination between different organizations, and it's just it's truly an unfortunate thing that happened. But
it does happen. These disasters do happen.
And I guess takeaways I would have from that, and myself, I'm on one of the fire departments in Calhoun County, and we had a trustee meeting this week, and this is something everyone they take for granted or they don't think about it, and then something like this happens, and it's a good example. Look over your insurance policies and make sure you're covered. That's
a good idea.
We at our fire, we had our trustee meeting this week, and that was something that we brought up to them. Maybe we need to have a review and talk about, are we up to date on different things? Because you never. It's something you can put off real easy.
Well, we're coming up with the 40th anniversary of the tornado that hit both Manson and Algona. And I know there was a thriving business up in Algona that was destroyed. I mean, just the tornado took it off at the foundation. And it turned out his policy didn't cover tornado. So he lost everything.
Sure.
The poor guy.
But in today's age, having those discussions with your insurance agents and whatnot, and just like the farmers that unfortunately were down in Western Iowa, some of the grain possibly wasn't covered, and you hear tidbits about that. So it's something that use these disasters to kind of take the time to rethink maybe your own situation, and you might have done stuff to the house or the garages or your contents and tools or different things, and take the time to review that, so that if something like that unfortunately happens, you're protected.
You covered in case of tornado there, big guy?
Yes, I am.
No, I bet you are.
Yes, I am. So I in fact, I put it off. It's something I usually don't do this time of year, but I try to sit down with my agents and just kind of do a review, and it's surprising equipment or this or that, and it just doesn't get updated, and so those are just things that should be done. And then unfortunately, an event like that, I'm sure they're going to be very well covered, but it's just a reminder that needs to be done.
Yeah, the case I described just a minute ago, that was a tough one. That guy built that business up, and he had just gotten in a position where he expanded, built a brand new building, and a tornado came along and wiped him out, and he didn't have the coverage. It was sickening.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
Oh, it was just really terrible. Went to court with his insurance company, lost. It was really sad. Yeah, that's a good reminder, though. A lot of people think they're covered. Okay,
it doesn't cost anything to have that conversation.
No.
To my knowledge, I don't think insurance agents are billing us by the hour for consultation yet. I don't want to give them any ideas, but
and some people will. Well, I don't need that insurance because I don't want to spend any more money. I don't want to spend any more money.
Sure.
Who does?
Yeah,
But
and there's a lot of people that rent, too. That I think they don't really even think about it, and a lot of that stuff is pretty economical to have. To cover your belongings if flood or anything like that, Mother Nature acts in a strange way.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So hopefully, they said I believe in the near future the KC Nielsen's going to rebuild, and and they will have I'm sure a state of the art new facility in Manson, Iowa. So it's a good thing for the region and the community, and I do business both.
Were you at that fire?
No, we were not at that fire. What would happen in those instances? We got invited to the debriefing of it, which is a good thing. What we do in Calhoun County, so we'll talk about what worked, what didn't between the departments. In a situation like that, we're down in Farnaville. We're down in basically the southeast part of the county, and we have in Calhoun County we have an inventory of. The chiefs get together and they basically have a running inventory of what departments have what. And if we would have been needed, whether it be manpower or a particular asset that we have, they would have called and we would have went. But in the meantime, I believe there was some equipment and people out of Lake City and Lorville that were called up there.
I think Fort Dodge, some guys in Fort Dodge.
The hazmat was called out of Fort Dodge.
Hazmat.
Hazmat was called out of Fort Dodge. And I believe I know there was some communication if they would have needed some of the old aerial truck from Fort Dodge is actually now owned by Rockwell City and Manson.
Okay.
So that's where that went. And it's housed by Twin Lakes. But it's kind of a game of chess what happens out in the rural side of things. So then our department in Farnaville, we pretty much then would be responsible for the southern half of the county if there was another emergency, because you can't move all your assets to potentially cover one area. That would be, so you have to leave someone back at home. But it's a lot of communication, and it's a very effective system, and we're pretty resourceful out in the rural parts.
Sure. I wonder why they had to call Fort Dodge hazmat.
Well, I'm assuming there was probably oil and
but is oil hazardous?
Oh, sure.
Really?
Yeah. And you're doing a lot of that is
it's not really combustible. I mean,
oil. Oh yeah, oil in a fire could be explosive.
Well, really? You think it's explosive?
And for the reports I heard, there was lots of small explosions going on there. But you had solvents, you had aerosol cans. What would happen in a call like that is there's supposed to be an MSDS book, and it's a big binder usually. Have every time you buy something as a business, you get these MSDS sheets, and those would be categorized and put in these books. So when we would arrive on scene, you would have basically a catalog of every component that was listed in that scene. And the hazmat crew, which is Region 5, that's the surrounding counties here, they're I don't want to say that they're the kind of the professionals. And then our organizations, we take hazmat operations class, and we're designed to assist them in these things, but they're kind of the paid professionals for the Region 5 is what they call it. And we would coordinate with them, but it would be probably very, very much in protocol to bring in the Region 5. And that's a great big truck. I think they're actually getting a new one this year, and they have a lot of assets and tools in that truck that would aid if there was some spills. You wouldn't want maybe a tank that got ruptured to go into a drain in the city. So they would have dikes and the capability to isolate that. We've used hazmat recently in some semi accidents where the fuel tanks are leaking, and they have the capability to take the fuel out of the tanks and put it in barrels and and dispose of anything that needs to be. So they're just another asset that the region has. And
well, they're really crazy on that stuff anymore. Really.
yeah.
I mean, I know there was an accident up north a while ago, a semi, or a couple of summers ago. Semi was in an accident and his fuel tank was punctured. One of his fuel tanks was punctured and was running into the ditch. They had to have a hazmat team come out.
Sure.
You know?
Something that was, I remember taking hazmat courses years ago. Milk is a hazardous substance.
You said that, or somebody said that.
Milk is deadly in a stream to fish.
Oh, really?
Yes. So there's some things that you don't think of that are extremely hazardous to, say, wildlife, and so a lot of this is just it's what's done. And,
sure.
And there's a lot of things that go on behind the scene out in the rural that those that are involved in it, we just kind of know it as second nature. And yeah, it's actually interesting to see what hazmat does and what they serve and a lot of the calls they go on. So they have some crazy stories.
Steve Peterson is with us from the Webster County Farm Bureau, and this portion brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. It's 3:34.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Crazy never takes a day off here, does it?
This is not vengeance. No, not vengeance. Punishment.
And now, Mayor Matt Bemrick, the Punisher.
That's right. Matt Bemrick is the Punisher. He will not be in today. Trying to get him on for a little bit tomorrow so he can punish whoever he feels like. The news is next. AM 1400 KVFD.
Come on, kids. We're late.
Honey, the car won't start.
Mom, the dog on my science project.
Life can be stressful, but getting life insurance shouldn't be. That's why there's Ethos. Ethos is a modern kind of life insurance that's super fast, incredibly affordable, and very uncomplicated. At getethos.com, there are no medical exams for policies covering under $1 million, no hours of paperwork or meetings with pushy representatives. It only takes 10 minutes to apply, and rest assured knowing you've taken steps to protect your family. And in most cases, with Ethos, you can have that peace of mind for less than a cup of coffee a day with no hidden fees. Having life insurance can free you from stress. Getting life insurance shouldn't cause it. Discover how uncomplicated life insurance can be at Ethos. Get your free instant quote and submit your complete application in minutes. Just go to getethos.com. That's ETHOS. Getethos.com. Getethos.com.
Hi, I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. When you're planning the memorialization of your loved one, you're telling their story and sharing special memories with your family and friends. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, we're proud to help you celebrate the life of your loved one, and we're here to guide you with your selections as we help you and your family say goodbye in a way that's right for you. Our staff is committed to compassionate care and attention to detail. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. Central Iowa County continues to be among the fastest growing counties in the nation, while 66 of the 99 counties have lost population since 2010 in the state of Iowa. Darren Danielson has the details.
New 2018 information from the State Data Center shows Dallas County is the 8th fastest growing county in the nation. Dallas County grew by 36% since 2010, and its growth is part of an overall trend where the Des Moines metro area has grown by 15%. The fastest growing counties behind Dallas are Johnson at nearly 16% and Polk at 13%. More than half the state's population lives in one of 10 counties, all of which are in metro areas. The Iowa City Names metro areas are right behind the others in growth at 13.6% and 9.6%. Clinton County's lost the most residents since 2010 at 2,599 people. Emmett County declined at the fastest rate, losing 10.2% of its population, while Audubon County was right behind, losing 10%. Adams County has the smallest population in the state at 3,645. That compares to the state's largest county, Polk, which has a population of more than 487,000. 25 counties have populations below 10,000. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Now looking at Webster County's estimated population in July 2018, that was at 36,277. That's down 366 people when compared to July of last year. And it's down 1,736 when compared to the April 2010 census. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley applauds today's release of the still redacted version of the report investigating alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Grassley, a Republican, says tens of billions of taxpayer dollars were spent on the near 40-page report. He says it should be made public with the exception of a few key areas.
You get accountability with transparency. Obviously, that doesn't apply to grand jury and hurting people's privacy or hurting national security.
Now, Grassley says he will not join with Democratic leaders who are calling for Special Counsel Robert Mueller to testify before Congress about the report he compiled over the last 22 months.
Well, that's up to Mueller. I've stayed out of what the special counsel's doing. I want him to finish job. His job's finished. And if he wants to testify, he's going to have to testify within the law.
Grassley says parts of the report do need to be kept secret, like sections involving people who are questioned but who are not indicted. Those people could have their reputations ruined. Grassley says if it came out that they were investigated by Mueller. In addition, Grassley says sections of the report that could jeopardize our nation's security should not be published or discussed by Mueller if he chooses to testify before Congress.
I would expect that he would respect that law. He's an honorable man. He's testified many times before me, both as chairman and member of the Judiciary Committee over several years that he was FBI director.
During a news conference in Washington, D.C. this morning, the U.S. Attorney General William Barr said the Mueller report found no collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign or any other Americans. With little fanfare, after more than a decade of missed attempts, the Iowa Senate has voted to legalize sports betting in Iowa. 19 Republicans and a dozen Democrats teamed up to vote yes on the bill, while 18 senators opposed it. Senator Robbie Smith of Bettendorf is the only senator to speak during Wednesday evening's debate. Under the plan, wagering on professional and college sports is to be managed by the 19 state licensed casinos in Iowa. Gamblers in Iowa will be able to use a smartphone app to place those bets.
I believe what we're doing in this bill is the right thing to do. Sports wagering is something I'm not fully eager to participate in myself, but that does not mean we cannot ensure that Iowans have the best experience for those that choose to participate.
The bill also legalizes fantasy sports prizes connected to the performance of professional athletes. It is currently illegal for an Iowan to claim winnings from sites like FanDuel, DraftKings, or other online fantasy sports games. The sports wagering issue now moves over to the House, where legislation similar to what passed the Senate is eligible for debate. And Iowa businesses and individuals soon will get some limited protection from lawsuits if they hire people with a nonviolent criminal record. Governor Reynolds approved that new law on Wednesday.
The bill reflects Iowans' belief in redemption and second chances. Most offenders will reenter society, and when they do, we want them to be successful. And too often, employers have overlooked skilled workers with past criminal offenses because of fear of lawsuits.
The shield from liability does not apply in cases where a past criminal conviction disqualifies someone from an occupation or certain jobs. That's a look at local news for the newsroom. I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. High of 56 this afternoon under overcast skies, winds out of the north 15 to 20 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 36. Tonight, clear skies. Ample sunshine expected again tomorrow, high of 63. Mid-70s Saturday, much cooler Sunday with highs in the mid-60s and storms. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 50.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. May corn up a quarter penny to close at 358.5. July up a quarter cent to 367.25. September unchanged at 375, and December down a half a cent at 386.25. May soybeans up 1.5 at 880.5. July up 1 3/4 at 894.25. August up 1.5 at $9 even, and November beans up 1 1/4 at 913.5. May wheat closed down 2 3/4 at 444.25. Soybean meal down 70 cents a ton at 303.20. April live cattle up 1/6 $128.52. June up 30 at $122.67. April feeder cattle up 37 cents at $145.70. May up 92 at $151.52. May lean hogs up 127 at $90.20. June up 62 at $96.75. And July down 7 cents at $100.55. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Are dyed Easter eggs safe to eat later? Hello, I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Ashley Richardson with the American Egg Board says make sure you use food-safe coloring when decorating Easter eggs.
Any of those kits that you're going to buy at the store, just make sure to read the box that they are food safe. Anything that you're going to be using at home, you want to make sure that it's food safe because let's say, for example, we've got a great idea this year out with putting some acrylic paint on bubble wrap and then rolling the egg over that bubble wrap that you've kind of just put a little paint on because it gives a nice three-dimensional look to the egg. Well, that acrylic paint is not food safe, so we can't recommend that you then eat the eggs.
Although eggs are hard-boiled first, the shell is still porous and could let toxic colorings through to the egg itself.
There's a really that's on Pinterest right now using shaving cream to decorate eggs because you're getting a really, really vibrant color with that. But unfortunately, shaving cream is not a food safe ingredient. It's not meant to be consumed. So anytime you're putting food that you're going to eat in contact with, things that are not meant to be eaten, that's not a good option.
Natural food colorings can be made from colorful fruits and spices such as blueberries and turmeric. As for eating the eggs after the hunt, only eat them if they've been out of the refrigerator for under 2 hours. And don't eat them if they've been cracked or otherwise damaged. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything. I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor. If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Do you check your phone, eat, or adjust the radio while driving? Driving distracted isn't worth risking lives. Join the Lutzy 43 Foundation's 43 Key Seconds initiative and pledge to stop driving distracted. Take the pledge at Lutzy43.org. Clear head, clear hands, clear eyes. Click it. Distracted driving is preventable. Learn more at Lutzy43.org. Sign the 43 Key Second pledge and stop distracted driving.
Wild Rose Casino and Resort Jefferson welcomes Foghat. Foghat rocks Wild Rose Friday, June 14th. Tickets on sale now at the Iowa store and online at wildroseresorts.com.
I just want to make love to you.
Don't miss Foghat. Friday, June 14th at Wild Rose Casino and Resort Jefferson. You'd rather be here.
Doing some deep cleaning in your home or business? Don't throw your gently used stuff out. Take it to the general store, where every donation is tax deductible. When it's time to clean out your dressers, closets, attics, basements, and storerooms, just load it up and come to the general store. Their friendly staff will help unload everything with you. Remember, when you donate your gently used furniture, clothing, small appliances, and more to the general store, you're helping people with special needs in our community. The General Store, 12 North 25th. Fort Dodge.
The great thing about facts, they're proven. Like the fact that crude oil contains impurities, or that base oil made from natural gas is 99.5% free of impurities. And the fact that Pennzoil is the first synthetic motor oil made from natural gas, not crude oil. It gives you unbeatable engine protection. The proof is in the Pennzoil. Based on Sequence 4A wear test using SAE 5W30. Available on Amazon.
Frontier Days 2019 salutes Fort Dodge's sesquicentennial May 31st, June 1st, and 2nd. Help the Frontier Days Committee celebrate the 150th birthday of Fort Dodge by becoming a volunteer. If you're over 18, Frontier Days has a volunteer job for you. Your civic group or organization can volunteer too. For more information on becoming a volunteer, email fortmuseumtours@gmail.com. That's fortmuseumtours@gmail.com. Sign up to be a volunteer as Fort Dodge celebrates its sesquicentennial May 31st through June June 2nd.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
Okay, this is AM 1400, KBFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. And with us is a past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau, Steve Peterson. And we've been talking about a lot of things, as we always do. So getting back to field conditions, where we started, if the weather is normal and we keep getting these little sprinkles, like it looks like we're April showers, all that, when do you think you'll be able to plant?
Well, I'm hoping my fields tomorrow will be fit enough to get in and work some ground up, and I'm kind of hoping.
Well, there's working ground and then there's planting corn.
Right. I'm actually hoping to have a planter in the field on Saturday.
Really?
That's my personal goal.
Okay. It's that dry. I know we've had some real wind and we've had some sun here lately that dried things out.
It's piece of dirt by piece of dirt, and it matters. My farm happens to be pretty. It's got some natural roll to it. I've got good drainage, so those are things working in my favor. I've got of course everyone always has the best piece of dirt, and their neighbors is not as good. But I literally have friends of mine and neighbors that have fields very close proximity that are nowhere near being able to be done. So there's still guys that have water standing in some areas, in some low lying areas. So it's not. Last night I was down in the Jefferson area, and they were out doing field work last night down there. So you don't have to go very far, and there's things going on. So the rain was kind of hit and miss, of course, in areas. I had about 3 tenths last night. I think it all came at once, but it really came down hard, but it didn't last long. So hopefully today I could have used some sun and a little more wind, but I think by tomorrow, if we get some sunshine, some wind like they're talking, I think it'll dry out pretty quick.
All right.
Okay. So that's kind of my agenda, and then we're gonna, I guess see where it goes from there. Take some time off for Easter on Sunday, and might be right back out in there Sunday afternoon, Sunday night.
Okay.
So it's and then just see what we get, see what cards we're dealt. But it's and there's, like I said, there's other guys that are doing anhydrous, and anhydrous is kind of you get some different answers. Generally, I guess in my experience is you need, by the time you apply the anhydrous to the time you plant, there should be a little bit, a few days. Otherwise, you can get some seedling burn, especially if you plant right on a apple where you inject the anhydrous ammonia. A lot of guys in the spring, they'll be doing it at an angle so that they don't get a row right on a knife track. But generally, I guess personally, I like to see a week between application and seeding. So, but I know there's going to be some guys probably push it a little closer than that. Still, I hear too, there's a lot of manure to be applied yet when field conditions get right. I think
you use the anhydrous, though, don't you?
I use all commercial fertilizer, so I use anhydrous ammonia and then dry urea or dry potassium and phosphorus. So, so I'm completely in the commercial side of things. But
isn't manure a lot cheaper than what you're talking about there?
Well, if you have the pigs or have access to it, but then there's still an application cost, or somebody's got to put it on.
Yeah, sure.
Whether you own the equipment or somebody.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
There's an expense there.
There's commercial manure applicators. Sure.
Oh, sure there is. But I don't use that. But I know a lot of farmers that I know that had hogs that have hogs. Last fall on some of their sites, they pumped down basically enough to get them through the winter, so they didn't have enough dry ground or ground that was suitable enough to empty the barns. So they're reaching capacity again, and they need some weather to get some hog manure put out.
Okay.
So and that's a whole different challenge of doing that in the spring, and like I said, or in the fall, we can get by with a little more compaction because we have times some bad decisions right now. Boy, it hurts the yield, and you live with that all year long. If you work the ground wet now and it happens to go dry, you'll have these boulders out there that you just can't get rid of.
Really?
And yeah, it's a tough deal. So I tend to be a little on the conservative side of working ground in the spring and not rushing it. It's one of the advantages I have of being a small farmer is I don't need a whole bunch of days. I just need a few right days. And, so there's pros and cons to it. And some of the guys with a lot of acres to cover, they need to be moving it basically any chance they get, because there could be guys that could take weeks or close to a month to get all their planting done.
Sure.
So they got to be moving. And something else that kind of came out this week, it doesn't get a lot of press. I guess it's not newsworthy enough, but the Department of Agriculture came out with their census of agriculture. And it's kind of a tidbit that it's a lot like the census the normal people would expect,
right,
population and whatnot. But this is exclusively for agriculture, and it measures the size of your farm, your ages, and they do it, I think in 2012 was the last one, and to now, and in Iowa, we lost about another 2,500 farms, which is alarming in some ways, expected by others. But as people pass on farms, some of them are sold,
Sure.
how they're disposed of. The average age of the farmer continues to go up, but what we've seen is
some of those old guys don't want to let loose. I'll tell you.
Well, they don't. And in Iowa, I think there was 86,104 farms is what the official census is, but they seen some growth actually in the small farms, and that's kind of something that's a little different in the trend, I think. And then when they call a small farm, that is something that's under 10 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And that tends to be, we're seeing kind of a resurgent, I guess, in the people that are growing stuff for the farmers markets, the small vineyards and
Mm-hmm.
the specialty crops. And, so we're seeing an increase now, in those type of farms, and they classify those under 10 acres. And then there was growth in the farms, the big farms, the 2,000 plus acre farms, and also in the smaller farms in the 180 to 500 acres. So some losses, but some growth in some specific areas. But the age of the farmer, that's something that always continues to go up and up. And I want to say it's like 57 years old now.
Oh yeah, you're one of the young bucks. There's no doubt.
In some things, yeah,
Mhm.
it's but there's almost 15,000 farmers in Iowa that are age 35 or less. So that's a growing
35 or less.
Yeah. So the young farmers actually are increasing in numbers, and that's where we've talked about in past the value of the young farmer tax credits and stuff that we were trying to get through the state, and that still hasn't happened. That's something that Farm Bureau I know is passionate about, and we're not asking for an increase in it. We just want to get it fully funded back to the levels of 2 years ago, because it was kind of evidently some low hanging fruit last year when they were de-appropriating, and that was on the chopping block. So those are some interesting statistics, and like I said, we use these numbers looking at policy and looking at trends and whatnot. But it's really no surprise that we are losing farms. We are consolidating some, but we're actually seeing some growth in some of the smaller numbers.
Well, that's encouraging. The way people like me are still nostalgic for the old days when there were 4 farms on a section of ground.
Mhm.
Well, technology took care of that.
Sure.
It wasn't government policies necessarily. It was 60-foot cultivators and these gigantic combines.
In my recent trip to China, it was they had, and these are rough numbers, what they told us. There's approximately 450 million farmers. In Iowa, I think the number of farmers, it was up about 10-11%. There's 143,500 roughly farmers in Iowa. There's 450 million farmers in China. These 450 farm less. They farm about a half a hectare, and that's a little bit less than an acre. in my perspective, they basically are glorified gardeners.
Why is that?
Well, there's no very minimal equipment used. Everything is done by hand. You know, and for rough terms, you know, if people don't know what an acre is, about the simplest reference I can give, an acre is basically the size of a football field, and that's a pretty good comparison. So that's 1 acre, and these farmers they farm just short. So I guess they'd farm to the opponent's maybe 20-30 yard line of that football field, and they do it a lot by hand, but they have 450. And I asked them, I said, well, why don't you take down the little stone barricades and this and that and combine these little acres and do it in more production? And the answer quite simply was, well, then what do the people do? Because they're just looking for jobs for them to do.
Sure.
So, you know, in some perspective, it's a keep busy. They don't positions for these guys. But so in Iowa, you know, we're seeing kind of the trends across the nation, but these numbers are very important to us as far as when we get talking about policy, when we see the direction of agriculture, and you know, we try to develop things to promote agriculture, I guess.
Sure.
So you know, and then publicly, you know, or in the government sector right now, we're still trying to get some things pushed through. The waters of the U.S. I see our supervisor Keith Denkel had an article about that, and that's something that I guess I had not seen, and that's a very good point he raises about drainage districts and their standing in those rulings. And this is the comment period where these things should be talked about. So yeah, I would support Keith in that 100%, because we don't want to exclude ourselves by the drainage district that we have here, and that's only exists kind of in the small part of Iowa.
Sure.
And then again, you know, we want to see these trade deals. We keep hearing things, and boy, we'd like to see some of those get done. And it just sounds like the pork exports are really starting to boom right now on there. The African swine fever is, I think, it's going along with what I witnessed in China.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger than what we think.
All right, Steve Peterson's been our guest. Thank you, Steve. Steve is with the Webster County Bureau, and the Webster County Farm Bureau brought you this program. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Reaction to the Mueller report. I'm Rich Dennison, Fox News. After nearly 2 years, the public is able to view an edited version of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's final report on Russian election meddling. Attorney General William Barr today saying while it shows Russia actively tried to influence the 2016 election, it did not show participation by the Trump campaign.
We now know that the Russian operatives who perpetrated these schemes did not have the cooperation of President Trump or the Trump campaign.
President Trump today again declaring victory, telling a group of wounded warriors at the White House,
I'm having a good day too. It was called no collusion, no obstruction.
The Attorney General says the report shows 10 incidents involving possible obstruction of justice by the president, but there was not enough evidence to establish the president had violated the law. The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee says he'll be issuing a subpoena for the special counsel report and the underlying materials. Democratic Congressman Jerry Nadler says the report outlines disturbing evidence that President Trump did engage in misconduct. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell today calling for legislation designed to raise the legal age for purchasing tobacco products.
Mitch McConnell, speaking in Louisville, says he wants Congress next month to take up a bill on raising the minimum age for tobacco products, including vaping devices, from 18 to 21 nationwide to help curb what U.S. health officials call an epidemic of teenage use of tobacco products. Kentucky's the second biggest tobacco producer after North Carolina. Tobacco stocks fell on the news.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. Heavy winds and power outages are being reported as a storm system moves across Louisiana and Mississippi. The National Weather Service reports gusts of 60 miles per hour in Natchez, Mississippi this afternoon, a spotter confirming a tornado. This is Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Let's talk credit card debt for a minute. If you feel you're carrying too much of it, you're not alone. The average household in the U.S. carries over $8,000 in credit card debt. Ready for some good news? With a cash out refinance from Quicken Loans, you can quickly and easily put some of the equity in your home to good use by paying off a lot of that high interest credit card debt. A great way to take cash out is with our 30-year fixed rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed rate mortgage is 4.5%, APR 4.78%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN to learn how taking cash out with a 30-year fixed mortgage might be the right solution for you. And for a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rates subject to change. Pay 2% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
In New York City say a man might have been planning to set fire to the largest Roman Catholic cathedral in the city just days after the fire at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris.
A 37-year-old man from New Jersey was caught trying to enter St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan carrying enough materials to start a very big fire.
Two 2-gallon cans of gasoline, a plastic bag containing 2 bottles of lighter fluid.
And lighters, says New York Deputy Police Commissioner John Miller. The man is identified as Mark Lamparello. St. Patrick's is the iconic seat of the New York Archdiocese and was finished in the 1870s. Eben Brown, Fox News.
Federal health officials are giving $350 million to researchers in 4 states hit hardest by the deadly opioid epidemic. The study announced today hopes to cut overdose deaths by 40% over 3 years in cities dealing with the misuse of the addictive drugs. Just because it says gluten-free doesn't mean it is.
Watch what you eat in restaurants if you're staying gluten-free. A new study in the American Journal of Gastroenterology looked at restaurant gluten-free foods and found that 32% actually do contain gluten. You're more likely to be deceived by pizza or pasta, and the switch is more likely at dinner than at breakfast. And mislabeled foods were more likely in Western states than the Northeast. Gluten can be dangerous for people with celiac disease and cause uncomfortable symptoms for those with gluten intolerance. Ginny Cosola, Fox News.
Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson has signed legislation increasing the state's marriage age to 17. Under previous laws, 16-year-old girls and 17-year-old boys could get married with the consent of their parents, or if the girl was pregnant, a judge could approve a marriage regardless of her age. I'm Rich Dennison, and this is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. Central Iowa County continues to be among the fastest growing counties in the nation, while 66 of the 99 counties have lost population since 2010 in the state of Iowa. Dar Danielson has the details.
New 2018 information from the State Data Center shows Dallas County is the 8th fastest growing county in the nation. Dallas County grew by 36% since 2010, and its growth is part of an overall trend where the Des Moines metro area has grown by 15%. The fastest growing counties behind Dallas are Johnson at nearly 16% and Polk at 13%. More than half the state's population lives in one of 10 counties, all of which are in metro areas. The Iowa City Names metro areas are right behind the others of growth at 13.6% and 9.6%. Clinton County's lost the most residents since 2010 at 2,599 people. Emmett County declined at the fastest rate, losing 10.2% of its population, while Audubon County was right behind, losing 10%. Adams County has the smallest population in the state at 3,645. That compares to the state's largest county, Polk, which has a population of more than 487,000. 25 counties have populations below 10,000. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Now looking at Webster County's estimated population in July 2018, that was at 36,277. That's down 366 people when compared to July of last year. And it's down 1,736 when compared to the April 2010 census. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley applauds today's release of the still redacted version of the report investigating alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Grassley, a Republican, says tens of billions of taxpayer dollars were spent on the near 40-page report. He says it should be made public with the exception of a few key areas.
You get accountability with transparency. Obviously, that doesn't apply to grand jury and hurting people's privacy or hurting national security.
Grassley says he will not join with Democratic leaders who are calling for Special Counsel Robert Mueller to testify before Congress about the report he compiled over the last 22 months.
Well, that's up to Mueller. I've stayed out of what the special counsel's doing. I want him to finish job. His job's finished. And if he wants to testify, he's going to have to testify within the law.
Grassley says parts of the report do need to be kept secret, like sections involving people who are questioned but who are not indicted. Those people could have their reputations ruined. Grassley says if it came out that they were investigated by Mueller. In addition, Grassley says sections of the report that could jeopardize our nation's security should not be published or discussed by Mueller if he chooses to testify before Congress.
I would expect that he would respect that law. He's an honorable man. He's testified many times before me, both as chairman and member of the Judiciary Committee over several years that he was FBI director.
During a news conference in Washington, D.C. this morning, the U.S. Attorney General William Barr said the Mueller report found no collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign or any other Americans. With little fanfare, after more than a decade of missed attempts, the Iowa Senate has voted to legalize sports betting in Iowa. 19 Republicans and a dozen Democrats teamed up to vote yes on the bill, while 18 senators opposed it. Senator Robbie Smith of Bettendorf is the only senator to speak during Wednesday evening's debate. Under the plan, wagering on professional and college sports is to be managed by the 19 state licensed casinos in Iowa. Gamblers in Iowa will be able to use a smartphone app to place those bets.
I believe what we're doing in this bill is the right thing to do. Sports wagering is something I'm not fully eager to participate in myself, but that does not mean we cannot ensure that Iowans have the best experience for those that choose to participate.
The bill also legalizes fantasy prizes connected to the performance of professional athletes. It is currently illegal for an Iowan to claim winnings from sites like FanDuel, DraftKings, or other online fantasy sports games. The sports wagering issue now moves over to the House, where legislation similar to what passed the Senate is eligible for debate. And Iowa businesses and individuals soon will get some limited protection from lawsuits if they hire people with a nonviolent criminal record. Governor Reynolds approved that new law on Wednesday.
The bill reflects Iowans' belief in redemption and second chances. Most offenders will reenter society, and when they do, we want them to be successful. And too often, employers have overlooked skilled workers with past criminal offenses because of fear of lawsuits.
The shield from liability does not apply in cases where a past criminal conviction disqualifies someone from an occupation or certain jobs. That's a look at local news for the newsroom. I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. High of 56 this afternoon under overcast skies. Winds out of the north 15 to 20 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 36. Tonight, clear skies. Ample sunshine expected again tomorrow. High of 63. Mid-70s. Saturday, much cooler. Sunday with highs in the mid-60s and storms. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 50.
Doing some deep cleaning in your home or business? Don't throw your gently used stuff out. Take it to the general store, where every donation is tax deductible. When it's time to clean out your dressers, closets, attics, basements, and storerooms, just load it up and come to the general store. Their friendly staff will help unload everything with you. Remember, when you donate your gently used furniture, clothing, small appliances, and more to the general store, you're helping people with special needs in our community. The General Store, 12 North 25th. Fort Dodge.
At Menards, nobody beats our prices, so you can save big money on everything to update your garage. Rust-Oleum's rock-solid garage floor coating kit covers up to 250 square feet and is 20 times stronger than epoxy. You'll be able to drive on it in just 24 hours. Available in 3 high-gloss colors. On sale for $99. Plus, a Menards gift card is perfect for Mother's Day. Stop in and save big money through April 21st during Menards Easter Sale.
Save big money at Menards.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Crazy never takes a day off here, does it?
This is not vengeance. No, not vengeance. Punishment.
And now, Mayor Matt Bemrick, the Punisher.
That's right, Mayor Matt Bemrick, the Punisher. I like it. I like it. Next time he runs for re-election, we'll have to take out big billboards of him throwing people out of public meetings. I think it's terrific. Joining us now, Father Patrick Boehm, Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church. So, what should we talk about?
It's your show, Mike.
What should we talk about? What's on television this week? All right, you see any good movies? No, I'm delighted that Father Bame of Holy Trinity Parish here in town and Pastor Hill have come in, and we booted the mayor off the air, by the way, for this segment. And I don't think I've done that in 10 years that I've had this radio.
Well, his kids go to St. Ed's. I see him all the
do.
time. So, maybe I'll rub it into him next time I see him. So say, hey, I won up your dad, just so you know.
Right. I have never kicked the mayor out of his spot because the mayor's spot is one of the most, if not the most popular times. The mayor's spot and the legislative hour on Friday, where we're going to have Senator Tim Greinbrink. And maybe when Nevin Mulholland and Randy Coolman are on for the sports show.
So what you're saying is the pressure's on. We can't disappoint.
You can't do it, guys. The pressure is on. So I don't know. The first question I'm going to ask, and I want to get into the whole story of Easter. What happened before? What was the sequence of events that led up to the crucifixion and then the resurrection? That's kind of a tall order, even in 43 minutes of airtime.
Yeah.
But is there a significant difference in the way the Presbyterian faith and the Catholic faith see Easter, or the reasons for the celebration, the Christian celebration of Easter?
Well, my guess would be, as we would start this out, I would think probably the most tangible kinds of differences that one might see would be in just the way that the worship services observe the events.
But there's no
of Easter.
historical disagreement at all.
No, I don't
No,
think so.
not in terms of doctrine or anything.
Yeah, right.
I mean, probably the most significant one would be what we talked a little bit about last week, which would be more of a Holy Week difference, and that would come out of the Lord's Supper and communion, the Eucharist, on Maundy Thursday, which would be today. But in terms of the crucifixion, what Jesus accomplished on the cross, what we celebrate on that Sunday morning with the resurrection and the new life that we have, I would imagine you could try to get us, you could try to get us to fight, but we probably wouldn't disagree a whole lot.
This is the one time I'm not going to try to start War of the Roses or anything.
That's all right.
Or anything like that. I'm not going to try to start any religious wars today. But part of this is educational, so people some people who are not Catholic look at the Catholics and go, well, they're a lot different, and the same thing applies the other way.
Right.
Really, there's probably more similarities than not. But you did say that there was, as far as the celebration that takes place at the First Presbyterian Church and the celebratory mass that takes place over Corpus Christi and Sacred Heart, there are huge differences, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think in terms of what we do and what it looks like, yes. I mean, in fact, we were talking about that as we were walking up here together. We happened to drive into the parking lot at the same time, and we were just kind of comparing notes a little bit.
Shop talk between ministers. I love that.
No, I would say that the services would look very similar, but they would have some distinct differences. And so, for instance, Pastor Hill mentioned how they will have a communion service tonight. So will we, obviously. I mean, as a Catholic, we have Mass and the Eucharist every day. But in addition to that, because of the gospel that is read today, ironically, people are always surprised by this, but the gospel that is read at the Mass of Holy Thursday at night is not the gospel account of the Last Supper. It is actually the account of Jesus washing the apostles' feet. So it is the Last Supper, but it happens just prior to the actual meal. And there's good reason for that. We could get into that at some point if you want to, but we read that gospel, and as part of the liturgy this evening, there are 12 people who will come forward, and as the celebrating priest, that'd be me, I will wash their feet in imitation of Jesus, because that's what he said. As I wash your feet, you must wash one another's. And so this what we call the mandatum, the commandment of John chapter 13, to go and wash each other's feet. I don't know if you guys have something comparable to that this evening or not, but
well, not every year. We have had ceremonies commemorating that, but that's more of kind of like the pastor's discretion.
I see.
We kind of we tend to go back and forth on whether we really want to emphasize the sacrament of communion, or whether we also want to include that servant love that we are called to participate in. And even if we do that, we still will have communion as well.
I just want to interject before I forget it. I have been to Jewish services over the years for one reason or another. And they remind me of the old Catholic High Mass, the old Latin Masses before your time, Father Bame, of course.
You should come listen to my homily tonight.
Oh, well, I'm ready to rock. What time is that?
7:00 at Sacred Heart. But interestingly enough, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, because I'm going to be preaching about the Jewish roots of the Eucharist and how everything that we do in our liturgy comes directly from a Jewish Passover meal.
Okay. Is that the way you see it, Pastor Hill?
In a lot of ways, yes. We've actually had a Jewish Seder meal before, which is that.
What is the Seder? I keep forgetting.
We
used to have a nice little Jewish congregation here in town.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the synagogue of the First Presbyterian Church owns.
Yeah, it was the synagogue.
And
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we had a strong Jew. When I came to Fort Dodge, there were still a lot of Jews in town.
Really?
Oh yeah.
No kidding. That's great.
And I went over there at least one bar mitzvah.
But
anyway.
Yeah, it's right across the street from
Kitty
our
corner
church.
from the First Presbyterian Church.
Yeah.
It's, what do you call it now?
The Shalom Center.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, to kind of keep that heritage there.
Yeah,
But as far as why it's called a Seder meal, I don't know. You're going to stump us here again.
Yeah, I don't know why that is either. I mean, I've always kind of thought of a Seder meal as it's not a Passover meal per se. I mean, the Passover is very structured, and I think even to this day, I mean, in kind of Orthodox Hasidic Jewish communities, they're very precise in how they celebrate the Passover. The Seder, a Seder meal, is, in my experience, maybe it's different in your experience, but I've been involved with, I think, 2 of them, and in both cases, it was almost more of a teaching opportunity, where people who are not Jewish kind of gather to, in a certain sense, I don't want this to sound derogatory to my Jewish brothers and sisters, but in a certain sense, imitate what they would do in a Passover meal, so that us Gentiles, us Christians, would have some idea. Because fundamentally, I mean, as Christians, our heritage is Jewish. It really is. I mean, Jesus Christ was a Jew. Paul the apostle was a Jew.
The apostles referred to him as rabbi, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Well, and just the idea that I'm sure you're going to get into tonight, and that Jesus is the Paschal Lamb. Jesus is the Passover Lamb. And so Jesus' death on the cross is very much rooted in this sacrifice language of the Old Testament, that the salvation that came to God's people, the Israelites, was through the blood that was shed of the Lamb as it was spread over the doorpost, so that the angel of death passed over those homes. That's the 10th and final plague, and the 10 plagues of Egypt.
I love that old stuff, man.
It's like it's like you read my homily without actually reading it. That's incredible.
No, the last time I went to Bible study with Pastor Hill's group, we read from the book of Revelations.
Okay.
And I always loved the book of Revelations for its sharp and terrible language. I mean, I really do. It's just, boom. I mean, it's just, and we talk about the angel of death passing over homes.
Right.
Before I forget again, what does Maundy mean in Maundy Thursday?
We came up with this last week. It comes from that mandatum that you just quoted.
Right.
So that's from that commandment to love one another as Christ loves us. And I'm going to remember that now from our time together.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we found that out. I didn't know that. I'm glad we got into that last week, because I honestly didn't know that either.
Okay. What was the first in a sequence of events that led to the crucifixion?
Well,
you could say the birth of Christ, but let's shorten it up a little bit.
Or I would say the prophets in the Old Testament too.
Right, exactly.
Or you could say the Roman Empire and the hope that this Messiah would come and free the Israelites from this oppressive foreign rule, and then Jesus came with kind of a different understanding of what the kingdom of God would be. I guess if you really want to condense it, you could say Palm Sunday is a good place to look at it. But again, even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, well, Jesus already had resolutely set out for Jerusalem before that, knowing
Right.
that he was going to die. So,
I mean, I would, if I had to pick a point in scripture, I would say John chapter 8, verse 58, where Jesus says to the Pharisees, truly, truly, I tell you, before Abraham was, I am, which is, I am is the English translation, shall we say, of the divine name, which God revealed to Moses. And so Jesus pronounces this same name and claims it for himself. And in the very next verse, I think I said John 8:50. I think it's actually 8:54. John 8:54.
I think it is 58.
What was it? Was I right the first time? They always say
think
trust
so.
your first instinct. I think you're right. I think it is 8:58. So in John 8:59, we are told, and they took up rocks to throw at him. And so this reading came up in our cycle of readings just I think a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago now. And one of the things I said is, when I was a little kid, I used to throw rocks at people at recess. My friends and I would throw rocks at each other.
You would do that, Father Ben?
Every now and then. I mean, not a lot, but every now and then my friends and I.
You were a bully in school?
I was not a bully. We were all doing it, which is not a good excuse. But
a little. So you were part of a group, so that excuse.
right. No, I understand.
Listen,
Fine.
We're not going to get to absolution with you today. If
No,
you,
I
if
know.
You keep
I mean,
if you keep trying to weasel out of it.
Here's the point.
What are your sins, my son?
Well, they are many. They are legion.
Dominus vobiscum et cum spiritu.
Very good. Very
you very
good.
much.
Your Latin is very good. Okay. So my friends and I, as a game, would throw little pebbles at each other at recess.
Oh, now they're pebbles.
Now they're pebbles.
Yeah. And so that was not what was going on in this verse. They wanted to stone our Lord to death. And so at that moment when he is claiming divinity, he's claiming to be God, there is a clear, shall we say, break? Shall we say rebellion against Jesus Christ? And at that point, I would say that the leaders, the Jewish authorities, set out to seek or find a way to put him to death.
Certainly. Is that the way you see it, Pastor Hill?
I would agree with that totally. In fact, I tell my confirmation students about that verse, and that's one of many of what we call the I am statements in the Gospel of John. That ego eimi is the Greek that he says there, and he's invoking that divine name. And you don't do that. And also to say before Abraham was, Abraham was the father of the Jewish nation, and to say before Abraham was, I am. Jesus is making a bold statement about himself, and it's a bold claim about his divinity.
I am the one they call. I am the one I am.
I am who I am. It's the Yahweh is the Hebrew word in Exodus 3, this divine name. And then Jesus says it, at least in the gospel, it's written in Greek. But
what was the legal reason they came up with at the time to execute Jesus?
Well, there wasn't really a legal reason. What they kind of got Pilate to say was that, well, he claims to be the king of the Jews. But even Pilate, there's this wonderful ironic moment where Pilate has the sign that's placed above Jesus. It says the king of the Jews.
King of the Jews.
But then the religious leaders, they say, no, he's not the king of the Jews. Make it say he claims to be the king of the Jews. And then Pilate's like, what I have written, I have written. And even there, it's, this kind of ironic.
What I have written.
Yeah.
Wow,
and so he's
Pilate, look
the king of the
out,
Jews.
Man. Pontius Pilate, look out.
So that was the closest to like a legal claim they could make, was that it would have been, I guess, some kind of insurrection or something.
Right.
Certainly. Yeah. That would be, he would, as I recall from my early training, which is nothing compared to the two of you, is that he was making a false claim to be king of the Jews, as I understood it anyway, from third grade catechism class.
To go back to Father Patrick's verse that he quoted earlier, if you go back to the 10 Commandments, very first commandment is you shall have no other gods before me. The third commandment is to not use the Lord's name in vain. That's that divine name, that Yahweh, or that I am. And so when Jesus invokes that divine name, he's breaking one of these 10 commandments, and he's claiming to be this God. Well, there's only one God to the Jews. and he's existed before this guy named Jesus was walking around. So surely Jesus can't be that God. And for Jesus to claim to be, that's blasphemy.
Right.
So for the religious leaders of their day, the sin or the broken commandment or rule was blasphemy in claiming to be God. And they got the Romans to kind of sanction that by trying to convince Pilate that it was insurrection or trying to be this false king.
So let's fast forward real quickly because in the second segment, we're going to talk about the world after the crucifixion and what the crucifixion has meant. We're going to try to do this in 20 minutes. What the crucifixion has meant from the time it happened till today. So
All right.
we're at the Garden of Gethsemane then. And we're really moving forward.
Yes,
Sure.
we'll knock this out, but certainly the Garden of Gethsemane is a key moment in the story, a key location point in the story. So, yeah.
Well, a couple things to highlight there that we may have alluded to one of the other times we've been on, but during that garden moment where Jesus is praying,
don't make me do this.
Don't make me do this. What I find fascinating, one, is that even Jesus, who is God incarnate, God in the flesh, asks for something in prayer that does not happen.
Yeah.
Which is...
that's key, isn't it? That never occurred to me, I guess.
Because, we often think, well, how come God isn't answering my prayers? Am I doing something wrong? Well, here's the one who knew no sin praying for this cup to be passed.
Well, there's an old country song that goes, sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers. I know a couple of girls that I thank God for
exactly
for unanswered prayers.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jesus is taken, and he has a crown of thorns, and he is forced to drag his own cross to what is the name? Calvary.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes,
Calvary.
that's right.
Calvary. And he is, let's do the news, and then we'll come back and pick it up from there.
We'll leave it on a cliffhanger.
Yes, this is a tease, a big one.
Sure.
So, Jesus is on his way to Calvary. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
It's 429.
This is Chris Heslop with Star Energy FS. I understand that time is a precious commodity, especially when it comes to your operation. That's why I am dedicated to be the best at providing business solutions for your operation. FS proudly supports the local communities we serve and is committed to helping your operation continue to run smoothly so that you can spend more time with those you care the most about. Star Energy FS is your local, reliable supplier for fuel, lubricant, and propane needs. FS, the people and the products to take you further.
Message and data rates may apply.
Earning your degree from one of the top business schools in the country might sound impossible to fit into your workload. But what if there were a business degree that furthered your career and gave you access to world-renowned faculty, leaders, and mentors, all on your schedule? One that opened doors to some of the most influential CEOs, companies, law firms, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. And what if you could earn that degree in as little as 16 months, 100% online? To find out more, text DRIVE to 79645. That's DRIVE to 79645. Start your online MBA, information management, or business analytics master's program from the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University today. Learn more about the W.P. Carey Business Graduate Programs online. Text DRIVE to 79645. That's DRIVE to 79645.
Have you ever wanted to speak another language? Whether you want to speak Spanish, French, or German, Babbel's 10 to 15-minute lessons can get you speaking confidently in your new language within weeks.
I just started learning Spanish with Babbel, and it's really helping me with my pronunciation.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres? Haha, I got it! I'm amazed how confidently I speak Spanish now. I wish I had tried Babbel sooner.
Babbel's award-winning technology gets you speaking right away. And best of all, you'll remember what you've learned. No wonder Babbel is the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Try it for yourself and see why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language, like Spanish, German, Portuguese, and more. You can try Babbel for free. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com. or download the app to try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
Thrifty White Community Health Corner. Are you taking vitamins or supplements? Did you know that some have the potential to interfere with some prescription medications? It's important to discuss all of the vitamins, herbal supplements, and over-the-counter medications you're taking with your pharmacist. Make a list of your supplements, bring them in on your next trip to Thrifty White Pharmacy. Adding a vitamin to your daily routine? Check in with your local Thrifty White pharmacist to make sure there are no interactions between your prescription medications and your supplements.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. May corn up a quarter penny to close at 358.5. July up a quarter cent to 367.25. September unchanged at 375, and December down a half a cent to 386.25. May soybeans up 1.5 at 880.5. July up 1 3/4 at 894.25. August up 1.5 at $9 even, and November beans up 1 1/4 at 913.5. May wheat closed down 2 3/4 at 444.25. Soybean meal down 70 cents a ton at 303.20. April live cattle up 160 at 128.52. June up 30 at 122.67. April feeder cattle up 37 cents at 145.70. May up 92 at 151.52. May lean hogs up 127 at 90.20. June up 62 at 96.75, and July down 7 cents at $100.55. I'm Dwayne Murley.
From the Fox Business Network, the major averages closing in the green ahead of the long holiday weekend. Markets will be closed tomorrow in observance of Good Friday. The market today was boosted by some strong Wall Street debuts from Pinterest and Zoom Video Communications. The Dow closing at a 2019 high, up 110 points. The Nasdaq up 2, S&P 500 up 5. And some upbeat news about the economy today. Last month, retail sales increased 1.6%, the most in a year and a half, as spending on autos, gasoline, furniture, and clothing jumped. And a supermarket tabloid has a new owner. American Media, the company that owns the National Enquirer, selling the scandal-plagued tabloid along with its two sister publications to a former newsstand and magazine distribution mogul for $100 million. James Cohen, whose family built Hudson News, best known for operating airport and rail station newsstands, agreeing to buy the troubled publication, according to the Wall Street Journal. With the Fox 3 Barsky.
Are you putting your retirement savings in a 401k, IRA, or investment account? Then I have one word of advice. Stop. Experts warn of a stock market crash any day now, and you could lose 50% or more of your hard-earned savings again. But you don't have to lose a penny. There's a better, safer way to save for retirement, and you can learn about it in a free report. This method continues to grow your money even when the market tumbles. To get this free report, go to bankonyourself.com. That's bankonyourself.com. Bankonyourself.com.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge 436. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Maria Vasquez has passed away at the age of 67. Maria Vasquez has passed away. She passed away on Tuesday, the 16th. And there will be a service for Maria Vasquez next Tuesday at Sacred Heart Church here in town, with burial following at Corpus Christi Cemetery. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Bruce's Funeral Home, the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. 437, Father Patrick Boehm and Pastor Austin Hill are in the studio, and we'll talk with them about the meaning of Easter in just a moment at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
It's happening to you every night. One snores and the other can't sleep. But now there is a quick and easy to use solution, a natural solution. Snore Stop, the #1 selling anti-snoring medicine in the U.S.
Thank you, Snore Stop. You saved my marriage.
It's time to try Snore Stop and make every night a better night for both of you. Spray or tablets are available today at Rite Aid and CVS or online at snorestop.com.
Frontier Days 2019 salutes Fort Dodge's sesquicentennial, May 31st, June 1st, and 2nd. Help the Frontier Days Committee celebrate the 150th birthday of Fort Dodge by becoming a volunteer. If you're over 18, Frontier Days has a volunteer job for you. Your civic group or organization can volunteer too. For more information on becoming a volunteer, email fortmuseumtours@gmail.com. That's fortmuseumtours@gmail.com. Sign up to be a volunteer as Fort Dodge celebrates its sesquicentennial, May 31st through June 2nd.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Well, that's what we're doing here today. That's not exactly appropriate music, I guess, for this segment. We're talking with Father Patrick Boehm of Holy Trinity Parish here in town and Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church. The first time I heard that song by Bob Seger, I think I was someplace where there was a go-go dancer. So perhaps not appropriate for what we're trying to do here today, but I do appreciate you two guys being here with a sinner like me. as I try to find my way, and I hope there are others listening who are trying to find their way as well.
Sure. That's all of us.
We left our story here with kind of a cliffhanger that Jesus was carrying his cross to Calvary to be crucified, and he is crucified. What happens during the crucifixion?
Everything. I mean, the history of the world has changed in that moment.
Exactly. And can you be a little bit more
specific? Yeah.
That's kind of a broad statement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I would go even further and say cosmic history. I mean, all of creation is transformed. I mean, the trajectory of creation changes in what Jesus accomplished on the cross. Now, there are a lot of different angles you can take it, and I'd be curious. We might have some different kind of maybe slants or emphases on this, and so this would be what you might call like atonement theories. So how, like, what did Jesus accomplish on the cross? How are our sins atoned for? And probably the most historic way of describing this is known as Christus Victor. Which would be saying that in the cross, when Christ was crucified, he conquered, he vanquished evil. So he won the war against evil, dark forces, spiritual forces, against evil, sin, and then ultimately death on the cross when he was crucified.
So he triumphed over the Democrats. I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry.
No comment.
Those are your words, not ours.
Right. That's right. Those are my words. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. That is. I don't know how you could explain what you just said and have the significance of it really sink in. I mean, it's as you say, the cosmos changed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. And many centuries later, we were born. And, and it's affecting us now.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I actually don't disagree with anything you said. I think I would have no qualms affirming everything you just said as a Catholic. Absolutely.
So let me, Father Boehm, and excuse me,
sure.
We'll give it right back to you.
Yeah.
So let's jump ahead a little bit in the story because we're pressed for time. We could go on for quite some time here.
Sure.
But Jesus is crucified. I believe he speaks to his Father while he's on the cross.
Yes.
Says, "Fathers, forgive them; they know not what they do."
Yes.
What that seems to be pretty self-explanatory. Was there anything else in his in that?
Well, sure. I mean, it's kind of a traditional devotion called the 7 Last Words of Christ. Mm-hmm. one of which is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Jesus is actually quoting the Psalms there. A lot of people don't realize that he's quoting Psalm 22.
Okay.
And so Psalm 22 begins kind of very dark and dreary, but it has a very joyful end to it. That our Lord is, in a sense, invoking the entirety of this psalm by quoting the first line. And so while the passion and death, the suffering and death of Jesus is sorrowful, we still nevertheless call it good. And so tomorrow, for instance, we call it Good Friday. On Saturday in our liturgy, we have my favorite prayer of the entire year, called the Easter Exultet, and we only pray it once a year, and it's at the Easter Vigil, so the evening mass before Easter Sunday. And there's a beautiful line in there. It says, "Oh happy fault, oh truly necessary sin of Adam that gained for us so great a Redeemer." And then it goes on. It says, like, this is the night when the pillar of fire conquered the darkness of sin. This is the night when Christians everywhere are washed clean of their ancient sinfulness. Or I can't remember the exact line, but something along those lines. And it's just and it goes on. We sing it. I actually get the honor of singing that this year, and the whole thing takes like 12 minutes to sing through this entire prayer. But it's just line by line, over and over again, affirming the goodness of what happened on the cross. And so there are a lot of different things that are going on the cross, all of which are good. Jesus entrusts the care of his mother to John the Apostle, and likewise John to her. He forgives the good thief. And this is only recorded in one of the Gospels, in the Gospel of Luke, but nevertheless, he forgives the good thief. And so there's just a beautiful meditation upon as I said, the 7 last words of Christ. And isn't it true that we save the best for last, as they say? A lot of times we save the best things that we should say to our loved ones till the very end. And Jesus is, in a certain sense, no exception, that he saves these 7 very, very powerful words for what is really, as Pastor Hill said, and he's absolutely right, the defining moment in history.
Oh, I listen to those. I listen to that language and open the Bible on occasion, and I wish I could write like that.
Sure,
I cannot.
yeah.
I simply cannot bring up that sort of imagery. And if I can't describe it as others have. So, and I'm going to come back to this again.
Sure.
So Jesus is dying for our sins in this very, very cruel way. Why? Why does he have to make this particular statement? Why does God have to make this statement? This such a powerful statement.
Well, the book of Romans,
a dramatic statement like this.
The book of Romans kind of outlines a lot of the logic behind this. And there's some key verses in the book of Romans that kind of help us understand this. But also another of those last words, and I think this might be from Psalm 22 as well, where Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
Yes, that's right.
And in that moment,
and I misspoke. That is the one from Psalm 22. I misspoke. My apologies. Thank you for correcting me. The other line is not from Psalm 22.
Well, we would have thought it was.
Well, and that's the point. Well,
Yeah.
I need to correct my error. Every now and then I misspeak. It happens more often than I'd like to admit. But
so Jesus is quoting these Psalms, and in that moment, it's called that moment of dereliction, where Jesus takes on the sin of humanity, and in that moment experiences the separation from God that comes as a result of our sin. So going back to the book of Romans, like Romans 6:23 says, the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. And that death that's being described there is this separation from God.
So by dying, God gives us a chance at eternal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jesus. So then Paul says it another way in 2 Corinthians.
You guys kind of hesitated at that question.
Well, I don't. I
Was
wouldn't
it a
call
dumb?
it
What?
No. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Paul says it like this: "Is he who knew no sin became sin, that we might become the righteousness of God." That's 2 Corinthians 5:21, I believe, and that's another that's described as the divine exchange or something like that. And
I have to confess, these are all terms I've never heard. I'm being educated over here. This is great.
Or the beautiful exchange, maybe. And this might be where, as a Protestant, kind of maybe emphasizes more in that atonement of the, Jesus. It's the satisfaction atonement, so that the debt, our debt from our sins, was satisfied by what Christ paid on the cross.
Absolutely, and we would affirm the same thing. In fact, the prayer that I mentioned, the Easter Exultet, that there's another line in there that Christ paid the debt of Adam's sin. As you were talking there, Pastor, I happened to think of something else that I think ties into this question, Mike, that you're asking. In the Old Testament, I'm way off. In the Old Testament, God makes a covenant with his people Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see this covenantal language, for instance, in the book of Genesis with Abraham, and then this covenant passes to Moses and, to David, and eventually through Jesus to all of us. But before we get to that point, it's important to note that Israel was unfaithful to this covenant over and over and over again. And in fact, it's why Israel was sent into exile in Babylon. And so for much of the Old Testament, I mean, I've never actually measured it, but I would wager probably half of the Old Testament, it actually occurs during the time of the Babylonian exile. Or at least it's whether it was written at that time or not, I don't know, but it's telling the story that was transpiring in the time of the Babylonian exile. And so the people were continually unfaithful to this covenant. That is important because when you get to the Last Supper, one of the things that Jesus says, and we may differ on this might be a point of discussion sometime, but one of the things that he says is, "This is the blood of the new and the everlasting covenant." Okay. Mm-hmm. That's important because you have an old covenant in the Old Testament, you have a new covenant ratified in Christ's blood. But the problem is that a covenant never ends. And so God, being one party in this covenant, and Israel being another party in this covenant, how do you end the covenant? Well, the only way a covenant ends is through the death of one of the two parties.
Mm-hmm.
As a people, Israel can't die. And so how does God handle this? Because he needs to establish a new covenant. Mm-hmm. He takes on human flesh and he dies, ending the old covenant, beginning the new covenant. Where? In his blood. And so I think there's something beautiful there about how God desires to enter into this covenantal relationship with us, with his people, by bringing us into his family, by dying for us, yes, but even more than that, desiring a relationship with us and desiring to enter into communion with us.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a beautiful point of reflection there if we stop and meditate upon that.
Yeah, there really is. Absolutely. There is, I hear every now and then in Catholic and Protestant services, the message of the cross. Did we just hear the message of the cross? Let us not forget the message of the cross. So, Pastor Hill, what is the message of the cross? Or are you just
I think we just heard it.
I think we did too. I was giving you a shot.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, I would agree that we are living in this new covenant. And I think a distinction, just to be clear, covenant is one of those church words that we often hear but don't always define.
Mm-hmm.
And, we think of a contract is like, Mike, you and I would say, all right, I will agree to give you $100 if you do X service for me. We write it and sign it on a contract. I only am obligated to uphold my side of the contract if you uphold your side. So I don't have to give you that $100 if you don't do your work. But in a covenant, my commitment to that, my faithfulness is not dependent upon your faithfulness to it. And so that's why God is faithful to the Israelites, even when the Israelites continue to be unfaithful generation after generation.
That's right.
And
That's exactly right.
And that's also why we talk of marriage as a covenant, because we all know that in any relationship, we're going to make mistakes. And the beauty of a marriage is that in some strange, foolish way, one person says to another, I am going to be in covenant with you. I am going to be committed to you, even when you don't have your act together. But what's so beautiful about that is someone else is saying that to me. And then we are demonstrating that covenant love that God has for his people is as we follow through with that covenant. And so that's this new covenant that God is still faithful, and it's not dependent upon me. It's not dependent upon what I do or what I earn. It's dependent upon God's grace, what Christ already accomplished on the cross.
All right. So Jesus has been crucified. He has died, and he is now going to rise. And what did anybody truly believe that Christ would be risen? Even his apostles?
I don't think so. No, not really.
No, I would agree. I mean, the one person I might throw in there is his mother, but it's just because a mother knows her son. I mean,
She'd have to know him pretty well for that, I'll tell you.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I agree. I mean, it certainly seems clear from scripture that nobody really knew. I mean, when Mary Magdalene encounters him, she thinks he's the gardener.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, and she's coming. I mean, all of the people, even after Jesus' death, that are still kind of around, which isn't many, they're there. They're thinking of how can we honor this beloved rabbi's death. So like Nicodemus comes with this wagon full of burial spices to embalm him. And, that would imply, well, he thinks Jesus is pretty well dead, right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, after that rather wild and ugly situation on Calvary, yeah, anybody would think he had died.
Yeah. Now, it's striking that the first people to see him alive again are women. And the first evangelist then becomes a woman in Mary.
That's right. Why is that striking to you?
Well, because in that day, women didn't have significance. They didn't have positions of influence. And for me as a Presbyterian, that's one of the reasons why I'm more able to affirm the ministry of women as well. And that could be a discussion that we could have at some point too.
We'll have to fight about that.
I actually would love to. It's one of my favorite.
Let me know when both of you can be here, and we'll talk
bet.
about the status of women then and now, and in the differing views. But word spreads like wildfire that Christ is risen. A lot of people, I'm sure, are not believing this. They are not believing, including the apostles, as I recall. Yeah, right.
Right.
We saw him die. Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
So he goes to them and says, "Here, it is I. It is me, and here are my wounds." And do they remain skeptical?
Well, it takes Thomas a little bit, and now he's
my friend Doubting Thomas.
He's forever known as Doubting Thomas now. Poor guy. Even though he still went off and died as a martyr, and
if I'd have been there, I'd have been Doubting Michael. But that's
I would say, if anything, that even more speaks to the veracity of the resurrection, the truthfulness of it, because you did have all these people, men and women both, who were doubting, who were incredulous of what had happened. And, as Pastor Hill said, Thomas was martyred. You look at the original apostles, okay, forget Judas for just a second. But of the 12 apostles, 10 of them were martyred. Judas wasn't. He was replaced by Matthias. Matthias was martyred. John, the beloved, was not, but the rest of them were. And so it's almost like this, this myth that kind of keeps floating around even today that, well, it's all made up. You Christians just made that story up. Well, okay. I mean, just try that logic for just a second. As Paul is getting his head cut off and Peter's getting crucified upside down, and I think Andrew was crucified, and one of them, I think maybe Bartholomew, was flayed alive, and one of them was thrown off the top of the temple. And, it's almost like, okay, well, you guys are all undergoing this suffering. Just make sure you don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Make sure that nobody tells anybody that we made the whole thing up. Just deal with it, take it, and we're all going to go down in history as being these famous people. That's just, it just doesn't.
Someone would have caved.
Right.
That
just doesn't happen.
People have named their sons Thomas and Paul. and Matthias, for that matter. There's a Matthias house in Dubuque.
Yeah.
But I've never heard anybody name their son Judas.
Yeah.
Judas screwed everything up.
Well, Jude, I mean, there was Jude, one of the apostles who was faithful. So there were two apostles named Jude or Judas, which is actually a very common name in the world at that time, named after Judas Maccabeus, who was a great hero in Jewish antiquity. And so a lot of people would name their children after him. So it was a very common name in ancient Palestine.
So Jesus has arisen. Now what?
Well, now there is hope for tomorrow.
Exactly.
Did it occur to people at the time?
I think pretty immediately for those who began to
It
see.
must have, because they spread the message.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, read Acts of the Apostles.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely.
And now they still didn't have it all figured out. What I love about Acts is that even when the Holy Spirit is given, the apostles are sometimes the last ones to really understand what the Holy Spirit is doing.
That's true.
The Holy Spirit is kind of out ahead of people, and it takes the stoning of Stephen to get the apostles to actually leave Jerusalem. In Acts 1:8, Jesus, right before he ascends into heaven, says, "You will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes in you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and all in Samaria and all the ends of the earth." Well, it's not until Stephen is stoned and all of the apostles say, "Hey, it's not safe here. Maybe we should actually leave and go out." Then they go out, to Samaria and beyond. And so what I also love is the grace that's given, and that the Holy Spirit is kind of leading the apostles. But it's amazing to see that in the beginning, it's just a couple hundred people, and they're still kind of scared. And by the end of it, you've got Paul in Rome. And I mean, the known world in that time, in one generation, gets to hear the name of Jesus.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. That's incredible. Yeah.
So
wow, I'd never thought of that before. I just learned something. That's awesome.
It's like the first viral video, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, yeah, here we are at a time, but I think we've done a pretty good job here today.
This has been great
in the time allotted, and my bringing my 21st century crudeness in every now and then. But you gotta
do what you got to do.
You got to keep it real.
All right. Happy Easter, everybody.
All right. Happy Easter.
Yeah,
So we are celebrating then the not necessarily the crucifixion, which happens tomorrow on Good Friday. Why do they call it Good Friday if that happened, by the way?
He already gave that answer.
Yeah, because that's the day that our salvation was given.
Okay. All right. I guess
that's good.
Yeah.
There's been so much conversation here in the last hour. I couldn't keep up.
You can't take it all in.
I can't absorb it. But so tomorrow is we recognize the crucifixion, but Sunday is truly the day when we celebrate perhaps the most important holiday, if you can call it a holiday, in Christian history and in the history of Western civilization. Thank you both.
Absolutely.
Our 5 o'clock KVFD Fort Dodge.
Straight talk on life and money. This is the Dave Ramsey Show on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD Fort Dodge.
It's not over. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The White House claiming victory, but top Democrats still have questions after the redacted version of the Mueller report is released. Fox's Jared Halpern has more live in Washington.
The top House Democrats say there is still more to see after more than 400 pages, including redacted material, was released.
So we will be seeking the complete and unredacted report, again, so that we can do our proper oversight.
Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff is one of two committee chairs also requesting testimony from Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell is commending the Attorney General's transparency.
I trust Bill Barr. I think it's rather laughable to see them turn their guns on him.
And Barr is scheduled to testify for Congress May 1st and 2nd. Lisa.
Jared, charges filed against a New Jersey man arrested last night at a New York City St. Patrick's Cathedral with gas cans and lighter fluid. Fox's Gernal Scott has this live.
Lisa, police say Mark Lamparello was stopped by security as he carried the incendiary items entering the Manhattan Cathedral. He's facing attempted arson and reckless endangerment charges after NYPD counterterrorism officers took him into custody. 2 days earlier, police say Lamparello was arrested at a Newark, New Jersey Catholic church after an evening mass for refusing to leave. He'd also booked a $2,800 flight to Italy. Police, in light of the New York arrest, would not speculate on his motivation for that trip. This comes just days after fire ravaged the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. Lisa.
Gernal, a psychiatrist, says the suspect accused of fatally shooting a woman and wounding 7 people at a Tennessee church in 2017 is mentally ill. 27-year-old Emmanuel Sampson hears voices, the psychiatrist says, and had a violent upbringing. Prosecutors have said they're seeking life without parole. Sampson faces first-degree murder and other charges. This is Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring is prime home buying season, so if you're thinking about buying a home, right now is the time to lock a low rate, which can save you money every month on your new mortgage. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Your news, your town, your station. KBFD News when it breaks.
Here's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. Central Iowa County continues to be among the fastest growing counties in the nation, while 66 of the 99 counties have lost population since 2010 in the state of Iowa. Darren Danielson has the details.
New 2018 information from the State Data Center shows Dallas County is the 8th fastest growing county in the nation. Dallas County grew by 36% since 2010, and its growth is part of an overall trend where the Des Moines metro area has grown by 15%. The fastest growing counties behind Dallas are Johnson at nearly 16% and Polk at 13%. More than half the state's population lives in one of 10 counties, all of which are in metro areas. The Iowa City Names metro areas are right behind the others of growth at 13.6% and 9.6%. Clinton County's lost the most residents since 2010 at 2,599 people. Emmett County declined at the fastest rate, losing 10.2% of its population, while Audubon County was right behind, losing 10%. Adams County has the smallest population in the state at 3,645. That compares to the state's largest county, Polk, which has a population of more than 487,000. 25 counties have populations below 10,000. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Now looking at Webster County's estimated population in July 2018, that was at 36,277. That's down 366 people when compared to July of last year. And it's down 1,736 when compared to the April 2010 census. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley applauds today's release of the still redacted version of the report investigating alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Grassley, a Republican, says tens of billions of taxpayer dollars were spent on the near 40-page report. He says it should be made public with the exception of a few key areas.
You get accountability with transparency. Obviously, that doesn't apply to grand jury and hurting people's privacy or hurting national security.
Now, Grassley says he will not join with Democratic leaders who are calling for Special Counsel Robert Mueller to testify before Congress about the report he compiled over the last 22 months.
Well, that's up to Mueller. I've stayed out of what the special counsel's doing. I want him to finish job. His job's finished. And if he wants to testify, he's going to have to testify within the law.
Grassley says parts of the report do need to be kept secret, like sections involving people who are questioned but who are not indicted. Those people could have their reputations ruined. Grassley says if it came out that they were investigated by Mueller. In addition, Grassley says sections of the report that could jeopardize our nation's security should not be published or discussed by Mueller if he chooses to testify before Congress.
I would expect that he would respect that law. He's an honorable man. He's testified many times before me, both as chairman and member of the Judiciary Committee over several years.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place to prove itself as one symbol of the everyday millionaire. That's right, folks. We're doing an Everyday Millionaire theme hour this hour. We're going to talk to you if you are a millionaire. Chris Hogan, Mr. Millionaire himself, joins us, author of the #1 best-selling book, Everyday Millionaires: How Ordinary People Built Extraordinary Wealth and How You Can Too. We're going to talk to real millionaires, not your broke brother-in-law with an opinion, not a Twitter troll, but people who really actually have something more than opinion. They have proof. They lived it. Now, some people inherit their money. Some people save their money and become millionaires. Most of us didn't have a rich uncle, did we, Chris?
No, not at all, Dave.
You sure you didn't?
I promise you I didn't.
If I didn't, he stayed hidden. If I did, he stayed hidden. Ramseys are notoriously cheap, the Scotch-Irish heritage, but I never remember anybody being an actual millionaire that was going to leave it to me anyway.
No, not at all, and definitely not in my family, coming from Kentucky.
Well, I'm Tennessee.
Yeah, I know,
man.
but I'm just saying, I didn't.
Like there's something wrong with Kentucky or Tennessee.
Not at all, but I'm just saying, no one is handing me anything.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. And that's what we found with most of them when we studied them.
We sure did, Dave. We did the largest study that's ever been done on millionaires. Talked to over 10,000 of them all across the country to find out the truth. Are these millionaires trust fund babies? Were they just handed something? Were they in the part of the DNA lottery and just born into a lucky family? And the truth is, they're none of these things. These are hardworking men and women that have focused over time and built wealth the right way.
Yeah. And here's what's interesting. There's an overlying, I guess, philosophical, almost geopolitical problem. When you believe life to be one way, you act on that belief system. That's called your worldview. And if your beliefs are wrong, you're going to get bad results. And if your beliefs are correct, if you believe Florida is south of Tennessee, then you have a chance of getting towards Florida. But if somebody's convinced you Florida is to the north, you're going to get there, but it's the long way around.
No, you're absolutely right.
And so the problem is, the thing that aggravates me so much when I see these people and their Twitter trolls or their policy wonks or their leftist socialists or whatever is, it's not that I disagree with you. It's just that you're wrong. And the reason you're wrong is you teach people that the only way to be wealthy is to inherit it. And so the message is, if you didn't inherit it, you got no shot.
That's right.
And that's an aggravating lie, because you've got a shot.
Yeah. No, Dave, and you can take it a step further. It's also, if you know you don't stand to inherit, and the only way you can get there supposedly is through inheritance, then that means you're finished before you ever got started.
Yeah. If all the millionaires are millionaires, if all the wealthy people are wealthy people because the Forbes 400, because they inherited it, or they had some kind of privilege that other people didn't have, then what that says is you're stuck, you're screwed.
That's right.
And that's not a really positive message.
No, it's not. And
it's also not the truth.
And it's two ways. There's also this thing in psychology called the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yep.
That if you believe it enough and you tell yourself that enough, that you will actually end up doing the very thing that you keep talking about. And that frustrates me to hear that message out there that's wrong. But it also prevents people from believing in the American dream. And I had some twit on a media thing try to tell me that the American dream was dead and gone. And I couldn't do what I wanted to do on air. But I'm just
You're
looking.
not allowed to punch people.
I know,
TV,
Dave. You've
Chris.
taught me. You taught me I
can't
can't
do that.
But I wanted to.
You're scary.
Because I am not scary. I'm huggable. But the American dream is alive and well, and it's available. And I want people to know the truth. So I'm excited because I met them, Dave. Hardworking, good men and women. They don't flash. They're not flashy. They're just regular people that are hardworking and focused on helping others.
So really what you need to hear is there's an underlying message here that now is, with airtight research, statistically proven that you got a shot.
That's right.
If you're hearing me. And when people say you haven't got a shot because the wealthy have control, wealth inequality message, the wealthy have control of everything, you're, white privilege, all this stuff that goes on, and you came from a rich family, you don't even understand the privileges that you have. And okay, all right, good. So what's that mean? it means you're stuck. And so what that message is a message that says you're a victim and you're never going to win. And the sad thing is, it's just not the truth.
It's not.
It's not the truth.
It isn't, Dave.
We found people of every race, every education level, every age group, men and women. We found people of in every state. We found people and as a matter of fact, almost every state, the ratio of millionaires that showed up was very close to the ratio of population as what that state represented. There's a few places a little heavier per capita than others here or there. As you might guess, because of some of the property prices. For instance, you find more in California or New York. You find, an inordinate more. But, but a lot of that had to do with real estate prices more than habits or beliefs or opportunity.
That's right. Well, I remember when you and I started talking a couple of years ago on this, you hit on something so much that I actually have it in the book. You said we all have different start points.
Yep.
We all come from different backgrounds and you may have different start points, advantages and disadvantages. The bottom line is that the dream is still there and available. The path is clear. It doesn't exclude anybody based on any other reason outside of our beliefs and our choices for what we want for our future.
Well, you start in a single mom's home, African-American, Kentucky. I start with a couple of hardworking entrepreneurial parents that taught us we could do anything. And I was so dumb, I believed you could. And so I went and became a millionaire. But by the time I was 26 and I was so dumb, I did it wrong. And so I had the opportunity to do it twice. So I'm so dumb, I've done it twice, And if I can do it twice, I mean, surely you can get it up for once.
That's right.
I mean, come on, And so the thing, it's not that I'm angry with the person. It's that you are teaching people they can't win when you say that stuff. And it's a lie from the pit of hell that you can't win. It's statistically inaccurate. It's spiritually inaccurate. And you got a shot. And when you tell people over and over they ain't got a shot, so what do? They sit.
That's right.
Instead of run.
That's right.
And man, it just burns my butt. It just gets me fired up. And boy, I'm telling you with this book, I was watching a Twitter interaction about 3 days ago. You've stirred up some people, man. A guy just took the stats right out of the book and was just wailing on one of these people that was trying to be victim based instead of victor.
Well, and I talk about that in the book, Dave, because it's so important. This victim mentality, we got to be careful. We got to be careful because oftentimes in some of the homes we were raised in, we were taught you could do something or you couldn't. And you need to be careful in what you choose to believe because as an adult, you don't need a permission slip anymore. Dave, we get to decide.
That's right. Hey, there were a lot of cuss words in our house and can't was one of them. You didn't say can't. Oh, that gets you in trouble in my house. Bad stuff, man. Bad stuff. Chris Hogan is with me this hour, #1 best-selling author of the book, Everyday Millionaires. We're going to talk to real millionaires here on the air at 888-825-5225. You've heard about the keto diet. Well, I've got a great way you can try keto while saving money on your groceries and getting 2 extra hours back every week. Yep, I'm talking about eMeals. eMeals does all the thinking for you, even with their brand new 4-week keto diet plan. That's right, eMeals now makes it incredibly easy to follow the keto diet or make dinners from any of their other 15 meal plans. Sign up for a free 2-week trial today at eMeals.com. That's eMeals.com.
Hey guys, it's Rachel Cruz, and I love to travel. I'm also a huge fan of our amazing listeners who are killing it with their money. If you're in baby steps 4 through 7, you have sacrificed so much to become debt-free, and now you can enjoy your life and money without the burden of debt. So I'm so excited to announce our first ever Live Like No One Else cruise in March of 2020. Join me, Dave, and the other Ramsey personalities for 7 luxurious days at sea. Learn more and register today at ramseycruise.com. babysteps4dages.com.
One of the easiest ways to get more money when you're working on the baby steps is to make sure you aren't overpaying for insurance. Trisha from the Ramsey Baby Steps community group on Facebook writes, I just want to say thank you to whoever recommended contacting an ELP in your area for a car insurance quote. I contacted the one recommended in our area, and we are now going to save almost $2,100 a year for car insurance. Now I can put even more towards our credit card debt. Wow. Our endorsed local providers can shop around and find you the best deals on insurance. That way, more of your money can go towards your baby steps goals. If it's been a while since you checked your insurance coverage, reach out to an ELP and see how much you could be saving. See who serves your area by going to daveramsey.com/ELP and click on insurance. That's daveramsey.com/ELP and click on insurance.
Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson. The Iowa Department of Public Health says there's a second case of measles in Northeast Iowa. It's a person who's in the home of the first case. That person is under voluntary confinement, and the health department says there's no current threat to the general public. State Data Center says Dallas County is the 8th fastest growing county in the nation, and most of the increase is from people moving in from other counties. 69 of Iowa's 99 counties have lost population since 2010. A hearing in Glenwood Wednesday focused on the Corps of Engineers management of Missouri River leading up to the flooding. Michael Stensberg of Hamburg was on hand to listen, says just 100 acres out of 3,000 he farms with his dad is not covered in water. Stenzel says he's just starting to see his operation go back to where it should be following the flooding in 2011. And now that was all washed away once again.
We're going to be in such a hard, deep hole, we might not ever get out.
Stenzel thinks better river management could prevent future problems. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Building relationships during recovery from mental and substance use disorders can put the strength of family and community behind you. We're all connected, offering encouragement, support, and hope. Join the Voices for Recovery. Strengthen families and communities.
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, including prevention and treatment referrals for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth. Step out of the car, please. I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by
It's a Millionaire Theme Hour, an everyday Millionaire Theme Hour. We're talking to millionaires from wherever they got their money to find out where they really got it and who they really are. Chuck is with us in Cleveland, Ohio. Hi, Chuck. What's your net worth?
I am currently worth $2.1 million and adding.
Awesome. And give me the mix on that. How's that broken out?
1.6 in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and annuities.
Mm-hmm.
285,000 in cash, 260,000 conservative estimate house that's paid off.
Good for you. Great. How old are you?
I am 62.
Perfect. And how much of the 2.1 million is there because you inherited it?
None of it.
Zero. Okay. And what's your range of income been, household income in your working lifetime, high and low?
Probably 5,000 to about 140.
What'd you do for a living?
I was a letter carrier.
You work for the post office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Chris?
Oh, wow. And Chuck, have you ever worked with an investment professional?
Yes. I had a stockbroker longer than I've known my wife, and I've been married for 36 years.
Okay.
My wife gets a little upset when I bring that up, but it's true. I met him before her.
Yeah, you better be careful with that one, Chuck.
Yeah.
And tell me this, did you go to college or high school?
I have 2 years of college.
2 years of college. Do you remember your GPA?
In high school, it was maybe 2.1, but in college, I was a 3 point.
Okay. And do you and your family do any giving?
Yes, to our church and some local things.
Gotcha. And Chuck, as you look back, what was your biggest financial mistake you made in this journey to becoming a millionaire?
The first time I could have paid off my first house by selling a stock. I didn't do it. And the market took a hit in 87.
Oh, I remember that.
So when 99 came, I sold the stock and paid off the second house to get completely out of debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Black Monday taught you a lesson, huh?
Yes, it did. I wasn't going to make that second mistake.
Yeah,
it was
good.
just before Y2K was going to hit, and they were talking about planes falling out of the sky and everything. And we had a small investment. It was in a sector fund that was investing in stocks and mutual funds and stocks that were in computers. And everybody was updating their computers. It was a tremendous gain. And I said, the worst thing that can happen is we own the house. We sold the stock, paid off the house.
Good play. Good play. However, it did go way up the next year, but it's still a good play. Very good play. Yeah. Good job, man. Good job. So what's your advice to the 24-year-old version of Chuck out there listening right now? Can it be done, and what should he do?
You would need tough skin, because you will have a lot of people nailing you about being greedy and money hungry and you're working too much. That has to hit you and fall off. You get your sight on what you want and you just keep pushing. Work hard, save all you can, spend as little as you can, and get out of debt as fast as you can.
How heavy were you in the TSP at the post office?
I was allowed to put in 5%, which they did match. I'm under an old pension that doesn't exist, and I maxed it out.
Okay.
And my wife is a registered nurse. She was allowed 3 times what I did, and we maxed hers out. And people told us constantly how crazy we were, because we don't know if we're going to be allowed next week. So why are you looking so far ahead? And I'm from a working family. Every one of us pushes. 40-hour work week to us is like hitting third gear, and I was determined to get there.
Yeah, and 62 and 2.1 million. Congratulations, sir. I'm proud of you. It's an honor to speak with you. Very, very, very well done. Nancy is in Grand Rapids. Nancy, what is your net worth?
About 2.1 million also.
Okay, and give me the breakdown on that, please. How's that allocated?
About 615,000 in retirement accounts, about 750,000 in taxable investments in cash, and about 750,000 in real estate.
Okay. All right. And how old are you?
56.
Cool. And how much of this 2.1 million is there because you inherited it?
I would say about 700,000. My dad left me some of his real estate when he passed away, and I still have it.
How long ago was that?
2016.
So you were already worth $1 million by then.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not a millionaire because of it, but you're a 2 millionaire because of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I feel blessed.
Yeah, you should. That's awesome. I'm just trying to make sure the calculation sticks and I understand where your wealth came from. Your first round came from acting like your dad. Your second round came from your dad.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. So what was your range of income in your working lifetime? Your worst year household income and your best year household income?
I would say probably when I started the work world in college, I probably made $12,000 a year, and probably my best year I made about $65,000.
Wow, cool. And what was your career? Or
I'm
is
an
your career?
on-road salesperson.
Sales. Okay, very cool. And did you get a 4-year
I've been
degree?
doing that. Yes, I do.
Okay, 4-year degrees in what?
In marketing.
Okay, and what was your GPA?
I think about 3.5.
Okay, very good.
Very good. And Nancy, did you ever work with an investment professional?
No, I really didn't.
Okay. And looking at this, do you do any giving right now?
Yes, I do, but I'm planning on ramping it up quite a bit.
Okay. Are you giving to your local church or charities? What do you do?
Local.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Looking back on your career and this journey that you've taken to become an everyday millionaire, what was your biggest financial mistake you made?
I think it is. I bought my first house at age 23, and it needed a lot of work. So I bought the house and I started putting money in it and not doing any investing. And if I could go back and do that one again, I'd still buy the house, but I'd let the house sit for 5 years and take that money that I was putting in it and do the investing.
Gotcha.
And then go back
You've recognized the benefit of an early start then.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really huge.
Yeah. So what advice, first, do you think this can still be done today?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this young generation, if they would put their mind to it and start even a little at a time, I mean, it ramps up to be so huge down the road that they would never believe it. Dave, one of your most famous sayings is, it's crock pot, not microwave. And that is so true.
Very cool. Good for you. So how much TV do you watch versus reading?
I do not watch hardly any TV. In fact, I don't even own one.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
No, I don't. I don't.
What's the best non-Ramsey book, not one of ours, that you read in the last 12 months?
Boy. To be honest with you, I don't really read that many books. I go online and read short articles.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Which I do on a nightly basis.
Fair enough. What subjects do you read when you're doing that?
Mainly business subjects.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Nancy, I'm curious, do your neighbors or any of your family know that you're a millionaire?
I think my cousins figured it out because his girlfriend ran a car rental agency.
Uh-huh.
And when I'd go there to visit, I'd always make sure that I took out the high liability insurance.
Uh-huh.
And it kept going on so many times that finally my cousin asked me.
There's a hint right there. I don't want anybody in a broken rent-a-car taking this money I worked my whole life for. Good for you, kiddo. Well done. I love it. Good information. It's an everyday millionaire hour, this hour on the Dave Ramsey Show with #1 best-selling author Chris Hogan. Tax fraud, medical ID theft, account takeover, employment fraud. These are just a few of the identity theft events that Xander's ID theft team has helped resolve for their clients lately. The reality is breaches are all too common and hackers are using new, sophisticated methods to steal and use your personal information. Everyone is at risk, even your children. This is why it's crucial to have ID theft protection that covers all types of identity theft, and the only plan I have ever used or recommended is from Xander Insurance. Xander covers all types of ID theft. They have smart prevention services, and they take over all the work if you become a victim. They even have stolen funds protection, and your children are protected for free. It's just a mistake to be unprotected anymore. Call 800-356-4282 or visit Xander.com.
From the Fox Business Network, retail sales soaring 1.6% last month. That's way more than expected and the biggest jump in a year and a half. Consumers are spending more on things like automobiles, gasoline, furniture, and clothing. A big day for IPOs on Wall Street. Video communication company Zoom zoomed more than 72% on its first day of trading. Investors all showed interest in Pinterest on its first day. That stock rising more than 24%. And despite all the political news and new IPOs, the Dow closed at a 2019 remain high, with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ remaining relatively flat. The stock market will be closed on Friday. And growing up usually means financial independence, but it seems most millennials still need some help. A new survey done for USA Today says 7 in 10 millennials, or adults aged between 18 to 34, got financial help from their parents in the last year. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Christina Parts-Nevelis.
Are you putting your retirement savings in a 401k, IRA, or investment account? Then I have one word of advice. Stop. Experts warn of a stock market crash any day now, and you could lose 50% or more of your hard-earned savings again. But you don't have to lose a penny. There's a better, safer way to save for retirement, and you can learn about it in a free report. This method continues to grow your money even when the market tumbles. To get this free report, go to bankonyourself.com. That's bankonyourself.com.